and expand the reach of her very fine program, which I'll tell you about in just a second. A couple thoughts on my mind when I was walking in the door tonight. The words of the late, great Benjamin Elijah Mays, who once said, "I have only but a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. I didn't seek it, I didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but all of eternity is in it." How might I put this kindly? The more chronologically gifted you are, the older you get, the more you realize just how fleeting life really is. It really is just a minute, right? And it's incumbent upon each of us to use that minute wisely, to maximize the moment that we have been given. And tonight you're going to hear some really empowering, enlightening, inspiring, uplifting, even humorous stories about folk who are living their minute, maximizing the minute that they have been given. Those are the words of Benjamin Elijah Mays, who taught Dr. King what he learned when he entered Morehouse as a 15-year-old boy. And these are the words of Dr. King. The ultimate measure of a people, is not where they stand in times of comfort and convenience, but where they stand in times of controversy and challenge. We are measured not by how we navigate the moments of comfort and convenience in our lives, but how we measure those moments of controversy and challenge. You're going to hear tonight some empowering, uplifting, inspiring, and funny stories about folk who've learned how to navigate not just the moments of comfort and convenience, but the moments of controversy and challenge in their own lives. And I think finally again of Dr. King, who once said that cowardice asks, is it safe? Expediency asks, is it politic? Vanity asks, is it popular? But conscience asks, is it right? And every now and then we must take positions that are neither safe, comfortable, politic, nor convenient, but we do it because our conscience tells us that it's right. You're going to hear stories tonight of people who followed their conscience, listened to their heart, and did the right thing in those moments of controversy and challenge. We have a lot of great programs on our station. I am honored to be surrounded by some brilliant talent. Weekdays on our station, weekends on our station. And I'm proud to say that Angelique is just one of so many African-American women who host shows on our station. I should tell you, I brag about this all the time. We have more women hosting talk shows on KBLA than any talk station in the nation. In the nation. We have more black women hosting talk shows on KBLA than any station in the nation. And Angelique is just one of those, and many of her colleagues are here, as I said earlier tonight, to support her. Our weekend lineup, though, is very unique. I spend a lot of time, have spent time, making sure that our weekend lineup gives you a different flavor. Dominique Dupree is great every morning, 6 to 9, and I follow her 9 to noon. And there's Lynn and Nicordelai and D.L. Hughley and Reva and Robin and Zoe and Jill. A great lineup on the weekdays. But on the weekends, we try to give you a different sort of flavor. And by the way, if you have not downloaded our app, shame on you. Don't you leave this building tonight without putting out your phone at the appropriate time. There will be an intermission. And I'm going to be walking around checking everybody's phone to make sure you've gone on your phone and downloaded KBLA 1580. KBLA 1580, download the app. We need those app downloads to keep growing our station. So download that at the intermission, KBLA 1580. Did I say KBLA 1580? All right, just checking. All right, so Angelique is one of a number of shows on the weekend that gives a bit of a different flavor. We have shows about a little bit of everything. But I love her show because it's called Living in the Sweet Spot, as you'll see expressed tonight in the voices and presence of all these all-stars who are going to present to you in their own way. But living in the sweet spot for me means one thing. For Angelique, it may mean something else. But for me, it means, tied into what I said earlier, those persons who find a way to navigate through those moments of controversy and challenge. They hear their head, they hear their heart, they follow their conscience, they maximize the moment in life they've been giving to find a way into that sweet spot. We're all trying to find our way into the sweet spot. If we can live there, then it makes life all the more worth the living. So I celebrate our program. I celebrate this evening. This, again, is the first. We're a startup station. We're just 2 years in. And so we're trying a variety of things. And this is one of the things that we're trying. How can we take certain programs on the station and expand the program, expand the reach beyond the studio? And this is the first of its kind. And if it works well, and it looks like it already has, looks like it's already worked. Angelique, congratulations already on this crowd that you have in this theater. So I can assure you that this is the first Living in the Sweet Spot Live, but it will not be the last Living in the Sweet Spot Live. And so I thank all of you for supporting our station, for supporting Angelique in this inaugural outing of Living in the Sweet Spot Live. I could talk a little bit longer. I don't need to. The program is prepared to jump off. And I want to just make sure, wanted to make sure that I came out to welcome you on behalf of our station, to tell you how delighted we are that so many of you have supported our station. We had a really cool ticket giveaway this weekend, and I was just blown away by the response from the audience who wanted to get tickets to get in here tonight. And so I appreciate, and we all appreciate your support of our station, and we especially appreciate your support of our friend, our sister, Angelique Francis, the host of Living in the Sweet Spot on KBLA and the host of Living in the Sweet Spot Live on stage tonight at the Miracle Theater in downtown Inglewood. Please welcome Angelique Francis.
All right, what's up? Thank you, Tavis Smiley. Woo! Give it up for Tavis Smiley. Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at you guys. You look amazing. Talk about living in the sweet spot. I am living in the sweet spot. Like if I could sing, this would be time for a song, right? Living in the sweet. You know, I got a theme song. Y'all know my theme song? I am not going to sing it, Punky G. You the singer in the house, Punky G. I was just at your concert. I know you the singer in the house. Wow, this is such a blessing. And when I tell you, this is a miracle. We found this theater 3 weeks ago and said, do you think we could pull this off in 3 weeks? So you know it's a miracle. Thank you for being and living with me in the sweet spot. Wow. So tonight, you've heard the commercials, you've seen the ads, you saw the social media that, yes, my children posted. Because you know I didn't do all that. I am so grateful and so excited to not just have you, and I'm not going to keep it going. Took a minute, bottlenecked outside just a little bit, because we didn't know if y'all were coming out. And I am grateful. I could not be happier that you wanted to come out and hear everybody's stories. They want to hear from y'all. My storytellers, everybody, are sitting straight up. Everybody wave, stand up, and just say hello to everybody. Everybody give a stand. Quickly stand up. These are your storytellers for the evening. Say hello. It's going to be a great night. I'm so excited to have them. They came to talk to you and to share, and you will, I promise you, you will be able to relate to many of them. You will not be able to relate to some of them, but you will wish that you lived like some of them, and you will be glad that you didn't live like others. But more importantly, you will have empathy, you will fall in love with them, and you will be grateful that they cared enough to stand with you, to be with you, to share with you, because they have been changed, they have been elevated, they have been restored, they have fallen in love and out of love. They've been set free. They've had courage to move forward. They have stood up and become who they truly are. They have forgiven themselves. They've started over. They've forgiven others. Can anybody relate? So, without further ado, let me introduce somebody that's going to be really important to me tonight. Besides, thank you so much for the crew and the cast of the Miracle Theater. Speaking of miracles, about 12 o'clock today, I was coming over here because we were going to have a little tech run through. And one of my girls came in here from out of town. A couple of my friends came in from out of town to be helpful. And my girl Lisa looked at me. She said, "Girl, what's wrong with your face?" I was like, "Well, I haven't put any makeup on. What you talking about?" And she said, "You look crazy." And she was getting ready to take a picture of me, and like in this day of social media, I'm like, "What you taking a picture of? Stop." And I looked in the mirror, and I swear I looked like the first cousin to Hitch. And I was like, "What is happening?" And my lips were swelling up, and my eyes were closing up, and needless to say, I spent a couple of hours in the emergency room this morning. But I look all right now, right? So I needed my own little miracle just for a moment. Lisa, Ahmad, please put your password in here, please. I knew that was going to happen. I look okay now? Lisa's like, "You need to go to the emergency room quickly." Thank you. So tonight, we're going to be joined by an amazing, wonderful musician. He's coming on stage. He's going to be part of this presentation. So we're not only going to have some amazing storytellers, we're going to have a wonderful bassist join us on stage. Let me tell you a little bit about Lawrence Shaw. Did you guys all see the scan when you walked in? There's a scan that was, what? Did you guys all see the scan when you walked in? Okay, see, this is why you don't let your little Harvard Business School daughter figure everything out. And I know you're watching on live stream, daughter. That's where your program is. It's on the scan outside when you walk in the theater, and also in here. Is there also one in here? There is. Oh, Lord, okay. So all this high-tech stuff. So during intermission, you can make sure in the hall, in the lobby, make sure you scan it so you can see the storytellers that were here in the first act, and then you'll be able to see who's coming up in the second act, okay? And then you can save it so you can go home and really read it when you put your glasses on and know who you saw, okay? For those of us who are over 50. All right, so this is who's coming up. Lawrence Shaw is our bassist, and he's going to be accompanying all the storytellers. He's born and raised in the heart of Los Angeles. Shaw was a product of a musical family. He grew up listening to jazz artists such as Horace Silver, Lee Morgan, John Coltrane, and Miles Davis, just to name a few. After 8 years old, he picked up the bass through Kids Helping Kids. Music has taken him everywhere, from playing local festivals such as Coachella to traveling internationally to Brazil, Cuba. After graduating from LACHSA, he formed the duo Black Nile with Aaron Shaw. He has been able to work and play with many different artists, including Herbie Hancock, Elle Varner, Jackson Brown, Wayne Shorter, Sheila E., Raphael Sadiq, John Legend. Wow, look at this list. Michael Sessions, oh my God. I think I owe him more money. Booker T and the MGs. The list goes on, but more importantly, he wanted to be here to hear your stories, to make your stories come alive, because he is a musical storyteller. So won't you welcome to the stage our bassist tonight, our jazz artist, our special guest, Lawrence Shaw. Yes, thank you so much, Lawrence. All right, so without further ado, let's get this going. Those of you who love Living in the Sweet Spot with me, you know the Living in the Sweet Spot is about, while he gets set up, Living in the Sweet Spot is about trials and tribulations, and all these things that we go through to get to the triumph. Living in the Sweet Spot is about this intersection between divine timing, divine power, all to get to this divine purpose, right? So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. We go through some trials, we go through tribulations, we go through some messed up, jacked up stuff, right? All to get to a triumph, all to get to this defining moment. And why do we do that? Sometimes it's just so that you could be a blessing to somebody else, to tell them your journey, to tell them your story. You never know when someone's ready to give up. Okay? So we're going to get this party going. We're going to get these stories unfolding. And here we go. Let's hear a little bit from you, just a little improv, since she is a real storyteller. Let's get this going. All right, so first to the stage. Lord, where's my list? Lord, Lord, Lord. Here we go. First to the stage, right from Lamert Park. She's going to tell you all about who she is and why she is Miss Monique Mitchell.
When you have a God for a mother, you learn silence speaks in tongues. Her voice echoes in our halls, a holy hallelujah. Praise be the hips that bent for me to be here. Bloodied, splintered Christ. A body broke itself so I might know life. Praise be the breast I suckled. Before the holy war claimed you martyr, claimed them cancerous, claimed you crucified. I rolled the stone away and was met with your absence, drank absinthe and was met with your spirit. Hallowed be thy name. Hallowed be the body I crawl back into until communion, when we break again. In the Twilight Zone remake, Season 1, Episode 33, a mother frantically follows clues to rescue her son from his kidnapper. She is an unwilling participant in a reality TV show called How Much Do You Love Your Kid? Each week, thousands of people tune in to watch the real pain and panic of strangers. In the end of the episode, it's revealed that the woman's husband, the boy's father, has set this all up as a ploy to help the family get out of their financial woes. Drunk on anger and adrenaline, the woman kills her husband for his betrayal, which earns her $1.5 million. I was 10 years old when I saw the episode, 6 years after my mom died. I remember knowing that I was supposed to think the husband was the bad guy, but all I could think was, if this is a game show, you can reveal yourself now, Mom. I won't be mad. I won't be mad at all. I'd fantasize about all the stories she'd have to share with me upon our reunion. And in these fantasies, she always looked just as happy to see me as I was to see her. When people find out my mom died when I was 4, the response is always the same. Oh, I'm so sorry. And I want to say, don't feel sorry for me. You're the one walking around with the chip on your shoulder because of something your mom said to you at 13. But one of the 3 things I remember my mother, Elena, telling me is, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So instead, I smile and say, thank you. Because she didn't live long enough to fall off the pedestal children inevitably put their mothers on, my concept of Elena was made up completely of fantasy. She'd be the perfect mother. If I fell and scraped my knee, she'd be there in a flash to put ointment on it and hold me until my tears stopped. She'd be a master of everything, from engineering like Mae Jemison to gymnastics like Dominique Dawes. She would never, ever yell at me, and she'd always read me a bedtime story. Again, this was my concept of the perfect mother. The year is 1992. Mae Jemison is the first African-American woman in outer space. Dominique Dawes is elected to the U.S. Olympic team. Elena gives birth to her second child, her first daughter, and 3 months later, she finds her first tumor while breastfeeding. I grew up walking distance from here, across the street from Queen Street Park. And I lived in a small apartment with my mom and my older brother. And after she died, I would come back every weekend to play with my best friend, Fatima, as a sense of normalcy. One day when I was 11, me and Fatima were playing, and I felt something wet between my legs. I told her we had to go home immediately. When I was in her bathroom, I stared at my hands in disbelief. They were covered in crimson. I knew what I had to do, so I quickly stuffed my panties with tissue. Fatima urged me, we have to tell my mom. And fortunately, I trusted her mom, Natalie, so I went ahead and told her. Natalie gave me a couple of pads to last me the next few days, figuring I would tell my granny, who was raising me, what had happened. I didn't. I had seen that film, Carrie, where the girl is shamed for that kind of bleeding, and I was already afraid of my granny, so I was not about to take my chances. Thinking back on it, I can't remember how many cycles it took her to notice my blood-stained panties. Elena would have looked in my eyes and just known, I thought. Eventually, my fantasies of the perfect mother turned into deification. She was no longer a human, she was a god. Elena became synonymous with Christ. In fact, it wasn't until the process of writing this story that I realized she was a real human who wanted so badly to stay here with me, and whose heart broke when she realized she wasn't going to be able to. Had she stayed, she wouldn't have been the perfect mother, and that would have been okay. She wouldn't have needed to be a master engineer or an Olympic gymnast for me to love her. I probably would be weighed down by something she said to me at 13. But in the end, I understand. Walking around with the chip on your shoulder is a small price to pay for the gravity of love. Thank you. And thank you, Angelique.
Wow, let's give it up for Monique. Thank you, Monique. Monique is from South Central. She's a writer, she's a poet, published by the New York Times, by the way. She has a companion book for 4 Academy Award-winning film, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So look out for that. Very proud of you. Very proud. All right. Next up on the stage is Michael J. Michael J's from Los Angeles. Married for 22 years, father of 5. And ever since grade school, Michael loves, what? Father of 5? Well, that's what it should say. Why does it say father of 5? So this is storytelling. This ain't just about lying. This is storytelling. Oh, Lord, not that kind of storytelling. Lord have mercy. Ever since grade school, he been lying. No, that's not what I was supposed to say. Ever since grade school, Michael loves to make people laugh. Come on up to the stage, Michael Joseph.
Yeah, we're good. Don't listen to nothing that heifer just said. I want to dedicate this. Come over here and do this thing. Okay. So, like one of them nights when I had too much whiskey, huh? Y'all didn't get it.
I wasn't there, so I can't.
No, I don't know.
Okay, stand closer. Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, you good?
Okay, I'm good. I want to dedicate this story to my cousin slash brother, the late, great Gregory John Wiz Felton. Miss you, man, like you don't even know. I was born in the early 60s. By the 80s, I was a husband and a father to 2 young children. By the 90s, I was divorced. And by the early 2000s, I was blessed with the love of my life, who's here tonight. We've almost been married 22 years. I love you, Melanie. You already knew. Excuse me, I get a little emotional when I talk about Greg. Yeah, I'll breathe. Yeah, I got it. I'm waiting too. I know you're probably thinking you didn't mention the 70s. Well, the 70s to me was one of the greatest eras and decades of our lives. Everybody here that was there knows what I'm talking about. We had big afros and soulful cornrows, Watu Wazuri, use Afro Sheen. You remember. We wore window pane jeans and double knit slacks, wallabies and crocus sacks. Now I'm rapping to y'all. Y'all don't even know what's happening. Putting it down. And of course, platform shoes. In my neighborhood in South Central, the elderly looked after the young, and the young looked after the elderly. It was a time when if you did something in school, by the time you got to your block, everybody knew. And you were going to either get your ass cussed out. Excuse me, Reverend Bam. I got a good preacher down there. Forgive me, Bam. You can pray for me later. Or you were slapped upside the head by the older gentleman. And it was community. It was great. We had house parties back then where there were no drive-bys or mayhem. We just had fun. And the music back then was really special. We had groups like Ohio Players, Isley Brothers, Brothers Johnson, Brass Construction, Tower Power, and of course the Elements, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Now we had Marvin, Mr. Gay, we had Brother Al, Reverend Al rather, we had Teddy P, we had James Brown, the godfather of soul, we had, of course, Curtis Mayfield and Black Jesus himself, Isaac Hayes. Must have been after the summer of 1974. I was going to the 8th grade at where most of the people in this room, or a lot of them, went to, St. John the Evangelist, over on 60th and Crenshaw. I was waiting to reconnect with my buddies who I hadn't seen all summer because I lived east of Crenshaw and they were on the west side. Anyway, really good cats. There was Steve Jones, who had the gift of gab maybe in 4th grade. He could go talk to these little girls and they would always end up smiling when they walked away. Still to this day, I don't know what Steve was saying. And we had Charles Chucky Mathis, was a great athlete, all-around athlete, who was nice enough to let us have first pickings of the new girls that came to our school, because he could have had any one of them. To this day, from what I understand, you're not to look Chuck in the eyes because you'll either turn into stone or a pillar of salt. Then there was my man, and he's here, right there, Kenny White, who was, he was labeled a bully back in the day, but I gotta tell you, nothing could be further than the truth. But if you poke a bear, you're probably gonna get your ass whipped. Kenny didn't start him, but he definitely finished him. I was changing that after that summer of '74. You know, I was growing hair in different places I wasn't expecting. I was waking up with hard-ons and nothing to start on. You know what I mean? I was waiting on the girls to come to school. There was Pam Black, who to this day has the most genuine, most beautiful smile ever. There was Debbie Gamble and Gina Raymond and her 2 sisters, Dion and Kelly. Cutie pies, all of them, but I had an ulterior plan with them. They were both going to, Gina and Debbie were both going to St. Mary's Academy the following year, all girls. I was going to all boys school, Daniel Murphy. You figured it out. I was gonna have them hook me up with their new friends at St. Mary's. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but they're my sisters to this day. Let's move to there's a little girl that came in. I was smitten with her. I won't mention her name. But there was something different about her when she walked in. My heart sunk when I saw her. But I noticed there was something different. And I scanned the schoolyard, looking at all the girls. Lord have mercy, they have boobs. I was enthralled. Excited wasn't the word. I was a boob man from that day on, or so I thought. Put a pin in that. Things are about to go around, and it's about to get real nasty. My maternal grandmother, who lived with us in South Central, her name was Mildred Coco, but everybody called her Ma. Now, Ma wasn't your typical grandmother, baking cookies and coming up to you, pinching your cheeks with love. Hell no. She was a Jack Daniels drinking, cigarette smoking, cussing and fussing, Louisiana ball of fire. If I back-talked her, whatever was in her hand was coming towards my head. Spatula, wooden spoons, dustpan. That old heifer even threw a roller skate at me one time. For the longest time, I thought my name was Little Red Bastard. Take that trash out, little red bastard. Get your behind in this house, you little red bastard. Or my favorite, come turn the channel on this TV while she's sitting on the couch, you little red bastard. And that's when we had the big color console that didn't work because you couldn't find tubes. You had the black and white on top with aluminum foil on the ears and the pliers so you could turn the channel. Let's fast forward a little bit more. It's same year, probably 75 by now. My older brother Wayne is going to Syracuse University. So now our room is my room. Couldn't wait, I've been waiting a long time. So my parents took me to Levitt's, the furniture store back in the day. Everybody remember that one? Okay. Got a corner group set. You know, that's where you put the platform in one corner. You got a bed on that wall, bed on this wall. Man, I put my trophies and accolades and certificates on that thing, and I went around the corner to get my best friend, my boy Jay Loke. Our mothers knew each other in Louisiana, and they migrated around the same time to California and bought homes right around the corner from one another. So Jay grew up in my house, and I grew up in his. We got back home where my grandmother was, and she's sitting on one of the beds. I'm like, Ma, what's going on? I got Jay over here. You know, we want to check things out. She didn't look up. She said, go right ahead. A few minutes go by. I said, Mom, we got some private stuff to talk about. We want to listen to some music. So she gets up, looks me right in my eyes, and goes, I'll leave, but I will be back. Your mama's turning my room into a den. I'm moving in here with you. This is BS, you know what I'm saying? I'm 13. I'm going to be the laughing stock of school if people find out my grandmother's sleeping in my room. You know? So I was adamant. I was like, you know, when Mom and Dad get home, this is going to be taken care of and rectified. I'm not letting this old cow take my room. Come on. So after she took my room and moved in, things went from bad to worse. She was a wonderful cook of Louisiana cuisine. She could cook gumbo, jambalaya, crawfish etouffee, red beans and rice, and potato salad. The only drawback was the flatulence this old woman had at night. That was extreme. It was putrid. That's the word, putrid. Poisonous, whatever else you want to say. There were nights I'd be laying in bed, and it's just, I'm taking deep breaths and asking God above to take me to glory. Please, I'm tired of this shit. So, she had arthritis really bad as well, in her shoulders and her knees. And one evening, she stood up off of her bed and began to unbutton her flannel top. Not seductively, you know, I ain't got to laugh at that. It perverts. Anyway, unbuttons it, walks over to my bed, pulls that thing down, and after I threw up in my mouth, because, okay, picture it. Remember the tube socks, fellas, we used to wear in the 70s up to our knees? Picture, take one of each sock, put an orange in each one, and those are how Ma's breasts look. They were down in here. About down to there. I mean, I'm traumatized. Shouldn't she be arrested? Because this is like child abuse almost, right? Right? A little bit. You know, I miss that old girl. I mean, that was her way of showing love. She made me tough, gave me tough skin. But I do know one thing, a conclusion I've come to over the years is that from those little girls at St. John's that were starting to mature and develop breasts, to my grandmother with these oblong milk monkeys, there's only one thing I can think of, and one conclusion. It's now my credo. I love big butts, and I cannot lie. Thank y'all.
I like big butts, and I cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. Now when a girl walks in with an itty-bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung. Wanna pull up tough, cause you notice that butt was stuffed deep in the jeans she's wearing. I'm hooked and I can't stop staring. Oh, baby.
Woo, let's give it up for Michael J. Ooh, Lord have mercy. Milk, what? Milk monkeys? I have never heard anything like that. Oh, Lord, Lord, Lord. I apologize, Pastor. We're going to be apologizing all night. I'm going to just tell you that right now. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, them was the days. Them was the days. Well, our next storyteller is from Larchmont, New York. Relocated here to Los Angeles. He calls it home. And I'm not going to tell you what he does. He's going to tell you what he did and what he does. Won't you welcome to the stage? I'm just going to call him Trey. Come on.
Waking up, I'm blessed, I'm still alive. Used to pray that I'd be dead. Now I pray it never dies. I'm good and can't believe that base all times is bad. Wanna hit the store and go for all the things we didn't have. I really used to mess shit up. Really used to burn everything that's in my side. I just ignited, I can't stress enough. I can't, yeah. There are those times that you feel down about your life. It's when you step it up. Step it up.
How we doing? This will make a little more sense as I tell my story, but if this was about 8 years ago, I would need a Xanax, 5 shots of Fireball, and a blunt right now. It was a hot September day, 2016. I was chilling. I was at the University of Rhode Island visiting my girlfriend. I was rolling a joint, one of my only proud talents at the time. I had no job. I had nothing to do. I had about $30 to my name, and I was looking forward to another weekend of partying, Xanax, Coke, and a whole lot of nothing healthy. My name's Trey. My whole life, I was a socially popular kid, but quietly anxious. I figured if I did things that people liked and I had a lot of friends and did things in sports and stuff that people celebrated, I must be doing something right. I was blessed. My parents were both tall, I had height, and sports came natural to me. So I played as many sports as I could, always stayed busy. I avoided being stuck on the couch at all costs in my head, and that worked for me for some time. When I got to high school, I was able to make friends easily, so I was popular, I was liked. I must be doing something right. My dreams of being a professional athlete and my love for hockey landed me at a small liberal arts college that specialized in untoxic, rich kids masked by a decent reputation for academic excellence. About a few weeks into my freshman year, I took a shot off the side of my foot and I broke my foot. My dreams were shot, and I was now in a tough spot because, like I said, I needed to be celebrated or I didn't feel good about myself. So, naturally, I became the party guy. I realized if I took a bunch of drugs, I got involved in the things that everybody else was doing that wasn't an athlete, I could be celebrated that way. And I was good at it. I was the party guy. I was the one you'd hit up where you needed to know where to go. I never had money because my mom was smart and she kept it from me, but I always found something to use. Pills, weed, alcohol, didn't matter. And I had a fantastic freshman year. It was fun. I did no school, and I made a ton of friends. And as you can imagine, that wasn't sustainable. By the time I got to my sophomore year, about 10 tabs of acid and a quick bender, I found myself depressed, lost, and no longer engaging with my community. So I decided to drop out. In this moment, I need to highlight a warrior in my life. My mom, if you can stand up real quick. That is what you call a gangster, a savage, and someone who really loves her son. A few years before I dropped out of college, my mom could already pick up on my unhealthy habits, and she kicked me out. When she kicked me out, she said, "Trey, I love you too much to support the lifestyle that you're pursuing, but when you're ready for real help, I will be there." Back to this hot September day. Sitting there, I'm rolling a joint, my phone starts to ring. All was good. It's my dad. Little did I know, my whole life was about to change. "Dad, how are we doing?" My dad immediately starts screaming at me and telling me, "You don't have a job, you're doing nothing productive with your time, you're taking advantage of your stepmom. If you want to live here, you need a job." Cool, see you later. Hung up the phone. I had no idea the reality of the situation that I just put myself into, but I was glad to just be relieved of the stress of needing to get a job. My plan? Stay with my girlfriend in her dorm room and her 2 roommates. Sounded like a great idea, but about 2 hours after that phone call, my girlfriend quickly told me, "Hey, this is not gonna work. You got like maybe 2 more days." Shit, what am I gonna do? No money, no job, no plans. And it was in that moment that my mom's voice started to echo in my head. "When you're ready for some real help, I'll be there for you." So, like any good kid, I immediately thought, fuck, I gotta bullshit my way through some rehab so I can get back here as quickly as possible. So I called my mom, skeptical of course. I said, "What exactly do you mean by get some help?" She said, "A real program with real support, real structure, and for you to make a change in your life." I said, "Cool." She sent me a few places and I was very quick to get on the phone with them. First place I called said it takes about 3 months to get through the program. Too long. The next one, 6 months, no way. And the third one I called was a program called Legacy. It was a wilderness program. They would take guys, hiking. We would go climbing. mountain biking, all these activities that I loved, that I thought I was good at, and I was like, how long can I get through this program? And after some back and forth, the guy told me 7 weeks is the fastest it was done. Perfect, I'm on my way. I convinced my mom to give me one more night to stay at the University of Rhode Island in a hotel before heading out to Utah. So I got as fucked up as I possibly could. The next morning, with a joint burning and an Uber ordered, I prepared myself to head on out to the desert to work the shit out of this program. When I got off the plane in Utah and I was picked up by two burly wilderness dudes and we drive 3 hours into the desert, all I could think was, where the heck am I going? They took my phone. There we go. Where are we going? They drive me about 3 hours into the desert, into what I now know was my new beginning. Upon my arrival, at Legacy, you would go on a camping trip for 5 days. You'd go do activity. You'd come back to base camp for 2 days where you'd do therapy, a bunch of groups, and reset. Staff would change, and you'd go out on another trip. That was every week. So I got there a night before the guys got back from their current trip, which gave me a moment to kind of collect myself, do like I did before a big game, and get hyped to work this program. The next morning I wake up and there's a bunch of guys coming into the rooms, and I start to meet them. I could see very quickly who's been there for a long time and who hasn't. The newbies like myself hated being there. They had nothing productive to tell me, and I knew immediately not to act like them. The older guys had this gentle touch of an understanding of the position I was in. They laid out the lay of the land, and I said, perfect. I'm just gonna mimic what they're doing, and I'm gonna get out of here as quickly as possible. My first night out in the wilderness, we're going fishing. We get to our spot, we hike about 3 hours, we get to this lake, and we start pitching our tents, at which point, one of the older guys shows me how to set up my hotel room. When I say hotel room, it's the perfect positioning of 3 trees that allows for a perfect tarp setup. We didn't get tents, just tarps, and we're sleeping on the ground. Got myself situated, and I headed over to the group as they were getting ready to start the group fire and for us to have a group. As I walked up, I see this dude literally doing what my man's doing, playing with this fiddle on the ground trying to start a fire. And like I did, arrogant as I was, I said, yo, I could do that, no problem. He handed me the stuff, and very quickly I was humbled. With a quick shift from failed fire starter to wood collector, the fire was burning, and we were eating our dinner. At this point, I was settling in, I was talking to a couple of guys, and we opened up group. To my surprise, the lead staff says, hey Trey, why don't you tell us your life story? It was in that moment when I started sharing my story with a bunch of grown-ass Boy Scout drug addicts in the middle of the desert that I understood this quote that I always said, you can't see the picture from inside the frame. It was at that moment telling my story where I was really able to reflect back on New York, the way I was living, and the way my life had taken this downward turn and was headed nowhere fast. Popular, active, athlete, drug addict, dropout. And throughout my time there, it wasn't easy, and it took a lot of work and some aggressive therapy tactics. One of my biggest issues at the time was my codependency and my anxiety. I was attached to this super unhealthy relationship with a girl back home, and she consumed the majority of my headspace the whole time I was there. One of the tactics that they used was we would be hiking, it'd be a Friday or Saturday, and one of the staff would come up to me and say, hey, it's about 10 p.m. on a Friday. What do you think your girl's doing back at college? It was aggressive, it made me mad, it made me anxious, but it moved me into a place of acceptance quite quickly. This went on for the first couple of weeks, and I got used to it. On the 8th week, and I've been working this program, I've actually been opening myself up to some change. I walk into my therapist's office, and he's sitting there staring out the window, and he looked like he needed the session more than I did. He was stressed, he was confused, and he looked at me and says, Trey, I'm worried about you. My response, this don't work anymore. I get it, dude. You can't make me anxious. I've accepted it. There's nothing I can do, or no amount of thinking that I can do that would change what's going on back home. And he says, no, I'm serious. Lindsay broke up with you. I still didn't believe him. I said, that's fucked up. You really gonna try to get me with this right now? And he hands me a letter. The whole time I was there, me and my girlfriend were writing letters back and forth that we were gonna get married and we can't wait for our life together, et cetera, et cetera. When I read this letter, and she was explaining that we were going to break up and things weren't working out anymore, I could feel everything leave my body. All the work that I was doing, my anxiety bottled back up, and I lost my shit. In other words, I stepped back into the frame. I could no longer see the picture of the work that I was doing, and I got enraged. I got enraged like I used to, and like I did best, I projected my pain onto the people who cared about me most. I cursed out my therapist, I stormed out of the building, I broke into a staff's car, I stole a tent, I hiked down behind a cabin, I pitched the tent, and I proceeded to stay in that tent for 3 full days. Luckily for me, they weren't allowed to, grab us or do anything physical, so they just had to plant a staff right outside my tent, and when they tried to bring me food or check on me, I flipped them off and said to leave me alone. On the 4th day, while the rest of my group was out camping, I hear a truck pull up down by my tent. And out of nowhere, my therapist, who when I say this man is the purest embodiment of peace you've ever seen, rips that tent open and with a straight face says, "Get in my fucking truck." So I did. I got in the truck and we started driving up into the woods. The whole time driving up was silent, and all I could think was, if we pull up to this group of dudes, I'm out of here. I'm running. No plan, but I'm running. To my surprise, we didn't. We pulled up into the woods. The axe, the enraged, stressed out, AWOL'd, drug addict, the axe, and says, "You go cut down that one." My first thought, I got the power now. I thought about it. I could take this truck, they couldn't stop me. Luckily, I didn't do that. Instead, I walked over to the tree, and I began hacking away at it. And with every bang, every hit of this tree, my walls began to come back down. I remember hearing the crackling sound after about 30 minutes of me not knowing what the hell I was doing, but I was just smashing away. This massive tree started to fall. And as it did, I stepped back, and it came down. When the tree crashed, so did my walls. I reopened up, and I broke down. I was able to allow myself to feel what I was feeling, the sadness and the heartbreak, opposed to the anger and the rage. My therapist came over to me, gave me a hug, and it was in that moment that I was able to move back into collaboration with the team and open myself up to continuing my journey. In other words, I stepped back out of the frame. On the way back to the camp, my therapist and I got to talking, and he said, "I think you're ready to move on to the next chapter of your process, of your recovery. Your work here has been fantastic. That moment was powerful. I trust that you'll be able to carry this with you." And I did. I moved and graduated to a sober living where I continued to live life from outside of the frame, allowing myself to reflect and think before I acted, allowed myself to feel and process. That moment has been with me for the past 7.5 years since I've been out of that program. And since then, I have worked for and restructured a group home in Utah that served young boys. Thank you. I've worked at 3 different adolescent treatment centers where I was able to work with over 100 boys and girls dealing with addiction and mental health issues and help show them the value in their recovery. And I now own my own aftercare recovery coaching program. Thank you. Where I've been able to take what I went through and help other kids struggling with the same thing, hopefully step outside of their frame a little bit sooner than I did. Thank you very much.
I'm still alive. Used to pray that I'd be dead. Now I pray it never dies. I'm
That's
good.
Trey
I can't believe it.
Hurlitz Ferguson. Trey
Trey
Hurlitz Ferguson. Trey was one of the guests in Living in the Sweet Spot. And what's the name of that program you do over the holidays? Trey, what's the name of the program over the holidays you do? Skateboard Santa. He just gets more and more creative with what he does and how he impacts the young people, and I'm really proud of him. And to the savage mama in the audience, what's happening, Susanna? Sometimes tough love is the only way to do it, right? All right, that was amazing. Okay, won't you welcome to the stage our next storyteller in the house. I'm going to let Ivy tell you all about it. But when you get the program, this next person, Ivy's pronouns is Jedi. Come on, Ivy. Come on up to the stage.
This is rather high. It's okay. I think I got it. How's everybody doing? Who invented lying? Anybody? What was the purpose? Like the original reason for lying? I have to think it happened out of panic, like out of survival, like an emergency lie. I mean, lying is powerful. Lying can make you rich. As a consequence, it can make you poor. Lying comes from all different places. Lying can change the course of your life. Depending on the lie, it can change the course of history. There's big lies and there's small lies. Some of us tell small lies every day. The issue between big lies and small lies is sometimes you don't know the difference until you're facing the consequences. The first time I told a lie, I don't think I intentionally tried to tell a lie. I just went with it. Someone made an assumption, and I just went with it. Problem is I just went all the way with it. As far as I can remember, I've always dressed like a boy. And when I got older, I gravitated towards men's clothing. And although now I have very visible female attributes, from time to time, I'll still get occasional yes, sir, or no, sir. But when I was a kid, it was very hard to tell. Plus, I ran with boys, and I was really good with sports, Up the street from my house was this neighborhood park. And me and my guy friends would go up there all the time. And sometimes there'd be a group of girls. And I wouldn't talk to them. I would just kind of stare at them from a distance. But there was this one who was always eyeing me, Rachel Kristen. And I don't know what got into Rachel Kristen this particular afternoon, but she beelined straight up to my friend Everett, who she knew from elementary school. And she goes up to Everett, and she starts asking about me. And I'm standing right there. But while she's asking about me, she keeps referring to me as he. Now, I know me and Everett are noticing this at the same time, but before he can answer when she asks me my name, he's looking over at me with amusement, I'm looking back at him, merciful, eyes pleading for him not to say a goddamn thing. Before he can say anything, I respond, Evan. She looks up at me, she smiles, she walks away. Now, in the moment, Everett played his position. You know, he understood the assignment. But the whole way home, I'm negotiating bribes, you know, to keep him quiet. I think he settled for like a Frosty or a Biggie Fry from Wendy's or something. I don't know what he settled on. So Everett gets all the other guys on board. I don't know how he did it, but he gets all the other guys on board. And then 2 days later, I'm getting a boyfriend request from Rachel Kristen's little brother. Now, at the time, I probably was nervous. This was a new world to me, but I accepted it. And from that point on, me and Rachel Kristen were an item. Everything at this point was now monumentally better. Tag was way more funner. When it came to the swings, I was the only one who could push her. She'd go get freeze pops. She always bring me the orange ones. We were really crushing this relationship thing. About a week into the relationship, Everett's cousin Richard gets us all to go play softball. 30 minutes into the game, Rachel Kristen and her friends show up. Doesn't bother me, because I've been knocking them out the park all afternoon. Now, Richard gets up for bat, and the only thing that was challenging this particular summer was the Chicago Heat. Now, before he steps up to the plate, Richard gets a great idea to take his shirt off. To my dismay, this prompts all the other boys to take their shirts off. So now I'm standing in a sea of bare chests, and Rachel Kristen is just waiting for the great reveal. So now I gotta make an announcement to the whole field that I have to rush home for dinner at 4 o'clock in the fucking afternoon. I was mortified. I didn't know what to do. I didn't go to the park for 2 days. I stayed at home ruminating on what I was gonna do. How was I gonna fix this situation? I get the idea that I'm gonna get her a gift, you know? When boyfriends make mistakes, they get their girlfriends gifts, right? At least that's what I seen on an R&B video or something. I don't know. But I want to get her a gift, but I don't have anything. But my mom has a bunch of shit. So I go into my mom's room, see a bunch of stuff, but I beeline straight for the jewelry box, and I grab the first 2 earrings that I see. I throw them in a box I already had, and I head straight for the park. Now, as I'm approaching the park, I'm kind of apprehensive because I actually don't know if my jig is up. But surprisingly, as I get there, Rachel Kristen runs right out to me and says, "My boyfriend's here!" Stress just rolls off my back. Rachel Kristen comes straight up to me. She hugs me. I give her the earrings. She looks at them, turns to me, gives me a kiss on the cheek. I had never had contact before. Not like this. I really don't know how I got home that day. I might have floated home, you know? Twinkle toes all the way home that day. And I was in bliss for like a good 2.5 days. But on the 3rd day, instead of going to the park, I decide I'm gonna go to the mall, get fresh for the park. But unfortunately, while I'm at the mall, I lose track of time. And then my mom, being a mom, decides that she wants to go look for me. And what better place to find me than the park? You guys already know. My mom gets up to the park. She's going around asking everybody about me, about the whereabouts of her daughter. Nobody knows who the fuck Ivy is. And I think, I think I would have been in the clear, and I don't think she would have been the wiser if gold door knockers was a thing for 10-year-old white girls to wear. But it never was. So my mom sees the earrings on Rachel Kristen, and she beelines straight to her. Now my mom wasn't like a yelling type of mom, She was much more investigative with it. You know what I'm saying? She watched a lot of Murder, She Wrote. You know what I'm saying? She did like that Angela Lansbury approach, very unassuming, friendly. Those are some lovely earrings, young lady. Where did you get those from? My boyfriend Evan gave them to me. I'm sorry, what? My boyfriend Evan gave them to me. Oh, Evan. Black Bulls jersey? Yeah. I think you guys know my mom didn't let her keep those earrings. And she didn't let me keep up my cover. And I never returned to that park again. And at the time, it really sucked. But I learned an invaluable lesson online. And when I got home, based on the consequences, I definitely had told a very big lie. Thank you very much.
Wow, give it up for Ivy. Wow. Great story. Isn't this cool, y'all? It's really cool. It's a long time since we've been sitting around and just listening to people tell their stories, right? Okay, well, our next story is coming from Darius, who is from Los Angeles, now lives in Northern California. He's the father of 6, 1 out of 10 children, and he's going to talk about the power of redemption. All right, here we go.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long...
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. As you heard, my name is Darius Ryan. I'm 48 years old. I was born and raised in Los Angeles, California. I'm a truck driver. I'm a drug counselor, writer, poet, part-time model, and like I like to be known best, I'm a dad. gonna happen.
Okay, seriously.
Indeed. Yes, ma'am.
Lord.
Nah, I don't want to hold it. Let's get this up here. Let's get this up here. Yes, ma'am. All right. All right. The story I want to share with you tonight is about a conversation I had with my daughter. From the time my oldest daughter was born, she and I were very close. I was the one who bathed her and cooked for her, taught her to walk. Her first words was "Dada." And when it was time for my daughter to go to school, I was the one who dropped her off and picked her up. In free time, me and my daughter would do what I liked best back then. Sit down and watch Married with Children, Al Bundy, Polk High. Even at the age of 14, I wanted to give my daughter the best life possible. The problem with that was, at the age of 12, I started gangbanging, selling drugs. So that was in complete contradiction to the life I wanted to give my daughter. The life I was living turned me into exactly what I didn't want to be. It turned me into my father. My father would lie to me and tell me he would come see me, pick me up, take me fishing. I was sitting on that porch waiting for my father to show up, watching cars come and go well into the night, only to be disappointed time and time again. Even as a 14-year-old gang member, I can remember sitting on that porch with my gun in my lap, waiting for my dad, hoping he'd want me. Fast forward a little bit. By the time I was 16, I was a full-fledged gang member, 100% alcoholic. Those two things were a horrible combination. Then with the abandonment issues I had from my dad and the resentment I had built up from my family, it allowed me to embrace the streets wholeheartedly. I took to gangs like nobody's business. February 25th, 1995, it came time for me to pay the consequences of my life, the choices I had made. A friend and I walked into the store by 1 a.m. And with my gang mentality and mindset, it was, if my friend gets into it, I get into it. But it wasn't only my gang mindset that allowed me to do so. It was the pack mentality I learned in my home as a young kid. You see, I'm sure I'm not the only one who heard is, if your brother or sister get into it, you better get into it. And if you can't whoop them, you better damn well pick something up and even a score. And that's just what happened. When my friend got into a fight at this time, I jumped right in wholeheartedly. He's my brother at his back. As a result of that fight, when it was all said and done, someone was dead, and I was still standing. I got sentenced to 15 years of life in the California Department of Corrections for beating someone to death. life was over. You see, at that time, I thought in California, you get a life sentence, you're not getting out of prison. So I come to the conclusion at 19 that I would die in some hellhole. So when I finally got to prison, I didn't get there for being good. So the first 8 years of my prison sentence, I was still gangbanging, drug dealing, fighting, and most importantly, I was drinking to medicate my pain and my shame. Around 2003, I had a conversation with my daughter 8 years into my prison sentence. And she revealed some things to me. She told me how she had been molested by a family friend. And that if I had been there, it wouldn't have happened. She also said that all she knew of me was that I was a gang member, that I was in prison. So that was like a kick in the nuts. First, I got upset because I figured, how could you say something so stupid? I wasn't telling her this, but I was thinking to myself, you don't remember everything we did? But how can I expect her 5-year-old mind to remember all those things? In essence, I had turned my daughter into what my dad had done to me. My daughter was sitting on that porch, waiting for her dad to come home. She would always ask me, Dad, when you coming home? And I would say soon, knowing it was a lie. My daughter didn't know that the conversation we had that day sparked a great change in me. It's the reason I stand here now. It put me on a road to change and betterment. It made me stand up and be responsible for my actions. So I figured it's a good time to sit back and take a look at my life and make these changes. But it wasn't so easy. Being a gang member, being a dad, I had the family that loved me and accepted me when nobody else would. I had the family who needed me like nobody else would. So I got on the road to change. First things first, I had to rebuild my prayer life. My grandmother was a minister. She had a little small church not too far from here on Slauson, right off of Crenshaw. If you blink, you miss it. The congregation consisted of my family members and myself, but that's what mattered. What mattered was my grandmother planted that seed, those roots, that made it easy for me to get back to my prayer life. So what I didn't say is my dad and I finally had got a relationship after I come to prison. So I had my dad send me a Bible. I started to study and started to pray on a regular basis, and things had gotten better. But I was still walking around with this mask of gang member, even though I had been changing internally. It was difficult to walk away from a life I had built. Around this time, I seen my first lifer go home, life-term prisoner go home. And I thought to myself, if he can do it, your black ass can do it. So I started putting things in play, learning, taking my incarceration seriously. But I was still wearing this mask of gang member, even though I no longer believed in it. It wasn't so easy to walk away. In 2007, I had to go out for hernia surgery. I was in Centinela State Prison. They sent me to San Diego for the surgery. Upon my return back to the prison, they were gonna try and put me in the hole because the cell I was in on level 3 yard, they had given away overnight. So I told them, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna put me in this shithole, this open wound. It's just not gonna happen. Override me, send me back to a level 4 prison yard. So after negotiation with the captain and lieutenant, they did so. Kind of turned out to be a good idea for me. It worked out in my favor. I had lots of homies over there from my neighborhood. So a few days after my return to the prison yard, talking to my friend back and forth, I asked him to have all my friends and comrades meet me on the yard the following day. He looked at me and said, I know what you're gonna do. I said, well, just have them out there. So I spent this night running over all these scenarios in my mind about how this situation would play out. Would I be jumped on, beaten, stabbed up, left for dead right there in that dirty ass prison yard? Let's just say I didn't sleep well that night. So I awakened to the sound of the prison bell the next morning for breakfast. Still in great pain, I didn't get up and go. So all I can do is sit there alone in my thoughts, waiting for this yard to open. So when everyone returned from breakfast and they got ready to open the prison yard, I said to myself, if this is gonna be my last day on this earth, I'm gonna leave on my terms. So I turned the light on and I waited for the guard to notice so he can open the door for me to walk out here and tell my friends what I had to say. The cell doors opens, and as I walk out the rotunda, there's two things I noticed. One, it's always hot as shit in Centinela State Prison. It really is. I call that place the Devil's Nutsack. But not this morning. I can feel the cool air on my face and my skin. Something was different. And two, as I walked to the area where my friends and comrades stood, I noticed 22 sets of cold eyes staring at me of men who I knew most had weapons and weren't afraid to use them. Most were in prison for murder and had no issue killing again. So I walked to the spot and I jumped right in. I looked at a couple of my friends who were closest to me, score at them. I told them I love them. But then I said, I'm done. I said, the life that I'm living is in complete contradiction to the man I've become. I didn't know what to expect. To my surprise, the one who was so-called had the yard said it was good, and they respected my decision. They told me I just couldn't come back. So I told them, I lived this life for a long time, so you know that when I was in it, I was in it. There was no straddling the fence. And now that I'm out, there will be no straddling the fence. Now comes the hard part. Even though they said they agreed with my decision, I had to turn my back on 22 people who I know, who had no problem killing, and who didn't like to let people walk away. So now's the moment of truth. Would I turn my back and be jumped on? Hell, with this wound, they didn't even have to use a weapon. One punch to my surgical site, and the fight was over before it would even start, if that were the case. It was about 150 yards back to the building. That 150 yards was the longest, scariest, loneliest walk I've ever had in my life. Every step I took, I was wondering if it would be my last. I was wondering if my life would be cut short from a blade to the back, and I would be left to sit there and bleed out in that dirty-ass prison yard. But the night didn't come. So with each step I was walking, I was actually walking away from a life of pain and terror that I imposed upon myself and my family and community. I was taking a step towards myself, my family, and my freedom. I was dying for the comfort of a prison cell, like never before. Once I made it back to my prison cell, I couldn't tell you how long I sat there, what I thought about, or when I even fell asleep. It was like an out-of-body experience. But what I do know is, when I woke up the next day, I told myself and realized that was the best night's sleep I'd ever had in my life. I was completely refreshed. I was renewed, and I was thankful. I had told myself that if I was so blessed to walk up out this prison one day, I would make sure I would do so. I wouldn't leave with an overdeveloped body and an underdeveloped mind. And I'm glad to say that didn't happen. I walked up out of there a better man for the situation, for the journey. I reclaimed my family, I reclaimed my friends, and I reclaimed my freedom. I came home June 14th, 2019. In total, I sat in that prison cell from the time I was 19 until I was 44 years old. 25 years of my life. I never thought it would happen, but yet, here I am. Thank you.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since.
Give it up, give it up, give it up. Yes, yes, thank you. That's what the Sweet Spot is all about. That's who we have on our show when we talk about it. This is a perfect time. Understand, this is why we do Living on the Sweet Spot. This is what we try to talk about on KBLA, because we got a lot to talk about. You got a lot to talk about. Your stories matter to me. This matters to Beloved Entertainment. This is what we do. We got one more before we break for a quick intermission. We're going to do a quick intermission because we got one more. Thank you so much, Trey. Thank you so much, Ivy. Our next storyteller, you already know her. those of you who are in Southern California and around the world, you know this next one. Jackie Gouchette. Musician, singer, songwriter, mother of three. Highly. She'll tell you about, because you know she ain't going nowhere without telling you who she the mother of three of. R&B artist. She's traveled the world singing for Diana Ross, Patti LaBelle, Chaka Khan, Tina Turner, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, among others, mostly singing for the Lord. She is the author of 4 books, and by the way, during intermission and right after the show, you'll be able to buy her books. She has books set up outside, so make sure that you support her as well. But won't you welcome to the stage my girl, Jackie Gouchette.
Do we have to fall in love? Can't we just meet? Do we have to fall in love? Can we just greet one another when things get bad at home? And we really don't want to be alone. Can't we just meet?
That was the first voice I remember hearing, and the one I grew up listening to. My mother, Betty Gouchette. She traveled the world as a background vocalist when I was very young. I was mesmerized by her beautiful voice as she sang the music of Aretha, Dionne Warwick, and Gladys Knight. But it was 1969 when the Jackson 5 came out with the song, The Love You Save. And I began to sing along. When we played tag in grade school, you wanted to be it. But chasing boys was just a fad. You crossed your heart, you quit. When we grew up, you traded. You promised for a ring. Now just like back in grade school, you're doing the same old thing. Right. That was when I realized that just like my mother, I could sing. She had handed her gift down to me, and there's no way that I could ever quantify the value of that gift. Music has been a source of strength, of comfort, and peace. It gave me confidence when I was unable to see my own beauty. Growing up in the 60s and 70s when dark skin and kinky hair wasn't popular, I didn't like the image I saw when I looked in the mirror. When it came to my appearance, I suffered a mild case of a low self-esteem. But the fact that I could sing made me feel special. When I was in the 3rd grade, they were beginning to integrate LA City schools, and someone came up with the bright idea of putting me on a bus and sending me to an all-white school. On the very first day, I was sitting in class wearing the same big smile that I always wore, until the blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl next to me pointed her finger directly in my face. And then loud enough for the entire class to hear her, she said with a look of disgust, "Ew, your gums are black." Wiped the smile right off my face. When I got home, after begging my mother to put me back in the all-black school, I went to my room and I put on a Jackson 5 record. And I began to sing along. You and I must make a pact. We must bring salvation back. Where there is love, I'll be there. The words spoken by my classmate broke something inside of me. But Michael was there for me just like he promised. That night we sang together until I fell asleep.
or until I heard my dad from the next room saying, "Baby, it's time to go to sleep." When I got to high school, I met my music teacher, Bernie Dunlap. Mr. Dunlap took me under his wings, and he taught me how to play the piano. He would send me out to different auditions and competitions. In 1979, I was the second place winner of the national NAACP AXO competition. And in that same year, I traveled the country with a group called the Young Americans, singing and dancing to the music of Rodgers and Hammerstein. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I was so inspired by Mr. Dunlap that I wanted to pattern my life after him and become a music teacher. So I was accepted into the music program at Cal State Long Beach. But I lived in West LA in a one-bedroom apartment with 8 other people. And my 1971 Chevy Monza was only good for a few trips back and forth to Long Beach. So between car trouble and the chaos in my home, by the end of the first semester, I was failing miserably. My dream of becoming a music teacher just crashed and burned. I don't know whether to laugh or cry. I don't know whether to live or die, and it cuts like a knife. I remember laying across my bed crying for several hours, feeling like a complete failure. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. But then a few days later, I received a phone call from my friend Terry Bradford. He was calling to tell me that he had been hired to sing on the Jim and Tammy Faye Baker show and that they were looking for a soprano. So within a week, at the age of 18, I was hired as a PTL singer. Once again, music came through for me. Shortly after returning to Los Angeles, I would meet the man that would become my husband. I was pregnant within 5 months, and then a month later we got married. But what he didn't tell me before we got married was that he had a drug habit, and he had been using. And within a few months, I was using with him. Over the course of the next 3 years, I gave birth to my 3 sons, Davion, Daniel, and Sir Daryl, all while battling cocaine addiction. But by 1987, I was winning the war against cocaine until November 14th. I received a phone call at 3 a.m. It was my brother Anthony calling to tell me that our father had been shot and killed. "Daddy's dead," he said. His words hit me like the bullet that hit my dad. And I only knew one way to ease the pain. So the night after my father's funeral, I took the $85 that I had received in the sympathy cards from my church members, and I left my babies with my Aunt Melinda, and I walked 3 blocks to the dope house. That binge lasted for 3 days. When it was over, the walk back home to Melinda and my sons felt like a 1,000-mile walk of shame. But when I got there, Melinda wasn't even angry. She was so happy to see me, she just threw her arms around my neck and cried. She told me that she loved me and that she had forgiven me. And then she let me sleep it off. The next day, when I woke up, still swimming in a sea of shame, I went to the piano, and this is the song that came out. You didn't have to suffer. You didn't have to give your life. You could have come down from the cross. but you chose to die. You said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. When they pierced your side, you just hung, bled, and died. I'll never know why you did what you did. You didn't have to die, but you did. You hung on the cross so that I wouldn't be lost. You took my place, now you're pleading my case. You didn't have to do it, oh, but I'm glad you did. You didn't have to do it, but I'm glad you did. That song came straight from God's heart to mine. Once again, bringing me the healing and the comfort that music had provided throughout my life. And that was the end of my relationship with cocaine. Over the next few years, now with addiction being a thing of the past, I was able to focus all of my attention and my energy on my children. My husband's addiction had taken him to prison for 7 years, leaving me to be a single welfare mother to our boys. But in 1989, I was hired to sing on an M&M's commercial, earning me enough money to make my days as a welfare recipient come to an end. And over the next few years, I was blessed to sing on stage, in studios, and on television with Diana Ross, Shaka Khan, Elton John, Quincy Jones, Stevie Wonder, Tina Turner, Patti LaBelle, and so many others. And my dream of singing with Michael Jackson actually became a reality. One of the greatest joys of being a mother was introducing my sons to my old friend, music. I sat my little ones around the piano and I taught them everything Mr. Dunlap taught me. I taught them how to play a C major scale. They knew the lines and the spaces on the staff as well as they knew their ABCs. They understood the meaning of pitch, sharp, flat, interval. I trained their little ears the same way I learned. I would do like this. Okay, this is a note. Imagine that this is a note, and this is your voice. So when you hit the note, you have to hit it like this. La, because if you hit it like this, you're sharp. And if you hit it like this, you're flat. I would give them exercises in ear training and harmony, and I would give them each one note, and then I would have them move in half-step or whole-step intervals, one at a time. Okay, Davion, this is your note. Daniel, this is yours. Daryl, this is yours. Now, Daryl, I want you to go up a half step. Daniel, you go up a half step. Daryl, go up another half step. Davion, go up a whole step. So by the time they were 7, 8, and 9, they had begun to master vocal technique, and they could sing three-part harmony with ease. The gift of music was in their DNA, and I intentionally cultivated that gift, giving them the solid foundation upon which they have built amazing careers. My firstborn, Davion, just recently signed to Def Jam Hillman Grad Records. He's written songs for Mary J. Blige, Lucky Day, Tyrese, and many others. My middle son, Daniel, is a classical pianist, a Spanish teacher, and a rapper, also known as D-Smoke. He was the winner of the 2019 Netflix rap competition, Rhythm and Flow, with judges Cardi B, Chance the Rapper, and T.I. He went on to be nominated for a Grammy for Best New Artist. My youngest son, Sir, Inglewood Sir, Daryl, is an amazing, brilliant songwriter, singer, artist, and producer. And he signed to TDE, Top Dog Entertainment, and his hit song, Hair Down, has over 39 million views on YouTube. All of my sons are carving out places of significance in the music world. As far back as I can remember, music has been a friend to me. When my dark skin and kinky hair and black gums left me feeling inadequate, music gave me a sense of worth. When I was flunking out of college and had no idea what I was going to do with my life, music paved the way for me to travel the world, singing my way out of poverty. And even at my lowest, when I was strung out on drugs, I was still able to find the song in my heart. And my sincere desire is that in the midst of the chaos that surrounds all of us, that you are able to find the song in yours. Thank you.
Do you have to fall in love? Can we just greet one another when things get better? And we really don't want to be alone. Can't we just meet? Do we have to fall in love? Can't we just talk? Do we have to fall in love? Tell me, baby. Can't we just walk around?
All right, guys, thanks for showing up for Mama.
And be the company with
Oh, this has been wonderful. Well, you think that's something? We got so much more to come, so we're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you, everybody. This has been wonderful. What do you guys think? So far, so good? You might come back for another sweet spot. All right, take a few minutes, take a potty break. Thank you so much. Lawrence has been amazing. Let's give it up for Lawrence. All right, okay, see you back in a few. All righty.
So loud for you, cause I'm so proud of you, and let me tell you what I'm about to do. Mama, I know I act a fool, but I promise you I'm going back to school, and I appreciate what you allow for me, and I just want you to be proud. I wanna tell the whole world about a friend of mine, this little light of mine, I'm finna let it shine. I'm finna take y'all back to them better times. I'm finna talk about my mama if y'all don't mind. I was 3 years old when you and I moved to the Chi. Late December, harsh winter gave me a cold. You fixed me up something that was good for my soul. Famous homemade chicken soup, can I have another bowl? You work late nights just to keep on the lights. Mommy got me training wheels so I could keep on my bike. And you would give me anything in this world. Michael Jackson leather and the glove, but didn't get me on curl. And you never put no man over me. And I love you for that, mommy, can't you see? 7 years old, caught you with tears in your eyes. Cause a nigga cheating, telling you lies. Then I started to cry as we knelt on the kitchen floor. I said, mommy, I'ma love you till you don't hurt no more. And when I'm older, you ain't gotta work no more. And I'ma get you that mansion that we couldn't afford. See, you're unbreakable, unmistakable, highly capable. Lady that's making loot, a living legend too. Just look at what heaven do. Send us an angel, and I thank you, mama. I wanna scream so loud for you, cause I'm so proud of you, and let me tell you what I'm about to do, mama. I know I act a fool, but I promise you I'm going back to school, and I appreciate what you allow for me, and I just want you to be proud of me. Forrest Gump, mama said, life is like a box of chocolates. My mama told me go to school, get your doctorate, something to fall back on, you could profit with, but still supported me when I did the opposite. Now I feel like
like it's things I gotta get, things I gotta do, just to prove to you, you was getting through. Can the choir please give me a verse of you? Are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're like a book of poetry. Maya Angelou, Nikki Giovanni. Turn one page and there's my mommy. Come on, mommy, just dance with me. Let the whole world see your dancing feet. Now when I say hey, y'all say mama. Now everybody answer me. Come on. I wanna scream so loud for you, 'cause I'm so proud of you. And let me tell you what I'm about to do. I know I act a fool, but I promise you I'm going back to school. And I appreciate what you allowed for me. And I just want you to be proud of me. I guess it all depends though. If my end's low, second naked up, you gon' get that benzo. Tint the windows, ride around the city and let your friends know. Tell your job you gotta fake them out. Since you brought me in this world, let me take you out to a restaurant, upper echelon. I'ma get you a jack, whatever else you want. Just tell me what kind of S-type, Donda West like. Tell me the perfect color so I make it just right. It don't gotta be Mother's Day or your birthday for me to just call and say, Mama, I wanna scream so loud for you, 'cause I'm so proud of you. And let me tell you what I'm about to do. You know I love you so, I never let you go. Wrote this song just so you know, no matter where you go, my love is true.
arms won't hold me tonight. If this town is just an apple, then let me take a bite. If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? Reaching out, touch a stranger. Electric eyes are everywhere. See that girl, she knows I'm watching. She likes the way I stare. If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? If they say why, tell them that it's human nature. Why does it do it that way? I like
Check,
loving
check.
this way. I like loving this way.
About 5 minutes left in intermission. Please make sure you check out the KBLA app. Download it. iTunes Store. Google Play. Also, we got shirts available in the front for $30. And make sure you scan the QR code that has the information for the event tonight. Once again, make sure you scan the QR code. It has the information for the event tonight. Intermission will be in about 3 minutes. Thank you.
Does he do it that way? If they say why?
At this time, we ask that everybody please take your seats. We will be starting the show back. Once again, at this time, we ask that everybody please take your seats. Make sure you scan the QR code. It has the program for the event tonight. Once again, we ask everybody please return back to your seats. We will be starting shortly.
Last night I saw you standing, and I started
All right, I hope you scanned your program. I hope you scanned your program for the evening. I hope you scanned your program. Did you scan your program? Did you get your t-shirts? All right, everybody take your seats. Everybody take your seats, please. All right, welcome back to the Living in the Sweet Spot Live. We are all the way live. I'm loving this. Can I have that picture back up of Roderick? Thank you so much. What's up, Rod? Rod is in the house. What's up? Yes. What? Elder Rod. So, some of the people here know Rod as Rod. Some people in the room know him as Elder Rod. Some people know him as Roderick. Some people know him as D Smooth. You know, Rod is a Kappa. Some people know him because of that. Uh-oh, yep, some people know him. Exactly. A lot of folks know him, right? We miss him, but I believe he is hanging out right over there in that seat. And I love having this opportunity to do this first one and honor him. One, because I miss him, and because I wouldn't even be in LA if Rod had not talked me into coming here. And so, because he was like, you know, it's time for you to leave New York and come on back home. And I was like, yeah, that's a thought. And Rod's kind of convincing. And yeah, he's pretty convincing. And I have to tell you, so those of you, a lot of you in here participated in a show that we did almost 20 years ago called Jukebox. And when you get the program, I talk a little bit about Jukebox because it was a show that we did with Pastor Bam Crawford at the time, and Jackie was head of the music ministry at the time, and she had written a song, My Help, and they had done a new album called Bam Crawford Purpose. And Pastor said, we're going to do a big concert. And she said, we're going to do a little, acting around it. And she sent me the script. And I was like, she said, what do you think? And I was like, it's nice. And I said, what do you want to accomplish? And she said, well, we're just going to do this. This is about the music. And I was like, okay. And then she said, do you have any thoughts? And I was like, I got a lot of thoughts. And she allowed me to come in and lead a team of writers, and we wrote Jukebox. And then she let me direct it, and then she let me do a bunch of other things. And so it became an amazing opportunity for us to create some things. And Rod took apart. And Rod brought his little Kappa cane and his little Kappa walk and all that stuff to the stage. And see, so he brought a real authentic flavor to the stage. And then Vivian brought her testimony to the stage, and I created a character around Vivian's testimony. And then Jackie brought her testimony to the stage, and I helped create a storyline around her testimony. And that kind of gave me permission to, in a lot of the work in the creative arts that I do, to bring others authentic stories and to create healing arts around it. So I always knew that it was supposed to be authentically told, but Rod helped me sort of launch a lot of what I do in beloved entertainment. So I wanted to honor him. Okay, so here we go. Living in the Suicide. Here we go. Act 2. Next to the stage. Let me tell you about our next person that's coming forward. He is a retired, wow. Y'all, he served in so many branches. He is a retired U.S. Army major. You can give it up. He served 35 years in the military career as an enlisted sailor in the U.S. Navy. He served in the Florida National Guard as an intelligence officer. And if that wasn't enough, he spent 35 years, and he is a retired fire department captain. This man, like, literally runs into buildings on fire. I mean, runs into the buildings on fire. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't even, like, understand that level of service. He's also serves for the Florida National Guard. Okay, I'm just going to bring him to the stage. I asked him to tell us about one of his most successful saves. Won't you welcome to the sweet spot, Monko Cruz. So, before I give him the mic, we just celebrated Veterans Day. Thank you for your service. And we appreciate you.
Angelique stole my thunder a little bit. I wanted to recognize the other veterans in the room. I ran into a shipmate here a little while ago, and it reminded me that November 11th was just a couple days ago. So if you served and you're a vet, thank you. Hoorah. So, ma'am. So, she's correct, somewhat. 35 years of military service, enlisted first, commissioned second. 25 years of fire department service in Miami-Dade. So, that, just to correct the record. And she asked me to share, you know, we could tell the bloody stories and all the gore and all that, but there's one call in particular that made the 25 years and all the little ghosts that run around in my head sometimes all worth it. It's 2007. I'm a brand new captain, just got promoted. And when you're brand new, they send you to the busy units. So I'm at one of the busiest units in Miami-Dade County, and I've got some junior folks with me because, again, when you're junior, you go to the busiest unit. 10, 15 calls, 6, 7 after midnight. is the crew that we get dispatched on to a birthing center. Didn't even know we had a birthing center in the territory, but we get dispatched to a birthing center for a neonate, a newborn in distress. How many times do you think we run calls on newborns, right? 50, 60-year-olds that have heart attacks all the time. Newborn? Almost never. Anyway, we barrel down the road, we get to the birthing center. This little fella is not even dry yet, and he is blue and gray and listless and not doing well. We determined quickly from the midwife that he's dealing with meconium aspiration. It's a condition that when you're born in distress, the infant will defecate into the amniotic sac, and then that fecal matter, those stools will manage to get themselves into the lung field. It's a brand new lung field. It's trying to work for the first time, and it's got shit in it. And no matter how old you are, having shit in your lungs is going to be a bad thing. And when you just got here, it's definitely a bad thing. So now we got to take care of it. We have a protocol. We're going to treat it. It requires intubating the baby, and it requires putting a suction tube through the endotracheal tube and sucking the poop out so that the lungs can get clear. Again, how often do you think we do this? At least once every 2 years at Pediatric Advanced Life Support Training, and we practice on sedated ferrets. It's the only anatomy that's small enough to replicate an infant. So we set up for the intubation. My crew knows what they're doing. Set up for the intubation. We set up for the suction. And I decide, as the most experienced firefighter medic on the truck, for 2 reasons, that I'm going to go ahead and do the intubation and not have my firefighter do it while I take the report. 1, because I'm the most experienced. But 2, these guys are junior in their career. And I felt it was my responsibility as their leader to absolve them of anything in case the call went wrong. Because there's no guarantee we're going to make this happen, right? Well, this day, everything goes right. Everything goes right. Tube goes right in, vocal cords visualized, suction set up, the crew's operating like a well-oiled machine. We suction the lung field. We see the meconium hit, and we draw that catheter out over and over and over again until we are clear. Still have the ET tube in place, got a tiny little ambu bag. We're giving them little respirations. Color starts to return. The blue goes away. Facial expressions start to manifest themselves. So, put the baby on mom, put mom on the stretcher, and we haul ass to North Shore Kids Room, which is the nearest hospital. I'm on the radio, telling them what we got. My medics puffing away. Life is good. I need to remind you what my first name is because it's relevant. My name is Munko, and I'm pretty sure none of you have heard it before, so just keep that in mind. So we get to the hospital. Life is good. We stick around because we're invested in this call because it's a baby. By the way, all of us have children. So good. So we're watching in the background. Nurses and doctors are tending to this baby. They start to extubate the baby. The baby is now fully pink, gurgling, moving, like he is alive. Best call of my career. Now, the registrar walks in, goes up to the dad, who's a Hispanic gentleman, and goes, "Hey, what's your son's name?" And the dad goes and looks at me, and instantly I know what he's gonna do, and instantly I know he's about to be disappointed. So he looks at me and he goes, "¿Cómo te llama?" As an aside, Munko sounds a lot like moco in Spanish, which means snot. So I tell him, my name is Munko. And he's like, ay, coño. My son's name is Paul. So this happens early 2007. No kidding. Sometimes we don't know if we get it right. A lot of times it doesn't go right, but this one call, our intervention saved that life. Thank you. Yeah. So like a lot of calls do, this call reminds me of my children at home. And I had just reacquired my oldest son, who was, I was absent from his life for 14 years. He was the result of a deployment to the Philippines while I was in the Navy, a young enlisted guy. And I ended up rotating back to the States before he was born, and it took me 14 years to reacquire him, to find him, and to get him back into the fold. By now I've married, got 2 other kids, but 2007, my 15-year-old son has rejoined the fold and is visiting. He lived in Vegas when I found him finally. He's visiting Florida often. I'm visiting Vegas. And at some point he comes to live with me. And I think that 14 years of absence had a negative effect. He's young. He's young for his age. He's slack-jawed. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. He's slack-jawed. His eyes are dull. He's uninvolved in his own life, and we recognize that now as a trauma response. And so I do my best to get him re-engaged. You know, we have ride-alongs on the truck. He comes and hangs out with us at the firehouse, spends time with the fellas, the camaraderie. You know, I'm trying to make up for abandoning him, frankly. And in 2007, later that year, as part of my Army career, I ended up going to Fort Huachuca, Arizona for the Captain's Career Course. And I take the entire tribe and I bring my oldest son down from Vegas. I bring Brian down. And we have a great time where, you know, I'm going to school, he's around, he's on post, and while he's on base, he sees me in the Army, obviously, but he also sees people his own age with steely eyes looking to the horizon and firm jaws. And he's soaking this in. And then one night we go to dinner at one of my classmates' house, who's also an intelligence officer. And we're just going through the litany of people we know in the hot spots that are in the world in 2007, because we have classmates just about everywhere, in the pen, in Iraq, in Afghanistan. We know people who are involved in all these things, and Brian is a witness to this. And so we're driving home that night from that dinner. Brian's in the car, and he kind of quietly asked me, he says, "Dad, how do you guys know so much?" And I feel like here's my teachable moment, you know? I'm like, "Brian, it's because we're involved. We're engaged. This is our profession, but we're engaged as well. We're interested." And he gets quiet. That's the night Brian decides to join the Army as well, right? Everybody thinks about service and all that, but when you're 18, 19 years old like I was, or 28 when I joined the fire department, service is cool and everything, but what really you want to do is you want to have some adventurous and do some really cool shit. And fire trucks and tanks and airplanes and all the hardware that the military has are places to do cool shit. So Brian decides he's going to join the Army. He did it. I could feel it. His resolve hardened that night. So sure enough, goes back to Vegas, and he joins the Army. Joins the Army, an Army at war. And I keep telling him, "Bro, be an intel guy. Enough risk, but not too much." He's like, "Nah, Dad, $30,000 bonus for forward observers for artillery." All right, bro. You know the $30,000. Yeah, if I don't go no down, I won't ever go. All right, got it. He signs up, graduates from boot camp, proudest day of my life. This kid is engaged. Fire is lit, intellectual curiosity burning. Making up for those years that he'd been lackluster, you know? So good. And we start having the Army becomes this bridge for communication between us and leads us to these existential conversations that we have often, you know? Sun Tzu, Marcus Aurelius, and the Art of Stoicism, things like that. So it's all good. Now, these conversations happened frequently while he got assigned to the 101st Airborne Division at Fort Campbell. I say hua. They slow down a little bit when the 101st deploys to the Korengal Valley in RC East in Afghanistan, but they still happen. They usually start off with a check on each other and him pissing and moaning as a young specialist about his chain of command and how they're all incompetent. And me as a captain on active duty by now telling him, no, son, you got to look at the bigger picture. About a month and a half into that deployment, he gets the wrongly named mid-tour leave. So he comes home. He's been in Afghanistan for about 6 weeks. He comes home and, you know, he has a good time. He spends time with me. He spends time with his siblings. You know, he learns to scuba dive. And right before he's due to rotate back to Afghanistan, we do two things that are really noteworthy. One, he wants to go diving with his dad. So we do a beach dive. We're on Oahu, so plenty of places to choose from. So we do a beach dive together. It's awesome. And then the day I'm taking him to the airport, he's in his uniform, he's getting ready to go. And he asks me, hey, Dad, I earned my air assault wings while I was still at Fort Campbell. And I earned my CAB, my combat action badge, while I was in Afghanistan. Would you pin them on me, please? So anybody who's been in the military knows that these are decorations that are usually pinned on in front of the unit, right, as a recognition for your service and your achievement. But he'd held back. He wanted his dad to pin him. So, of course, I do, right there in the living room of our house. Air assault's an achievement, no doubt. It's training, it's difficult, it's dangerous training. It happens at Fort Campbell. Combat action badge is different. You can only earn a combat action badge by engaging in the first word. I find out he hadn't said anything while he's been home. He hadn't talked about his deployment or his experience, you know. Come to find out, 6 weeks he's been there, those boys been in contact every day. Every day. Not some days, every day. And I know what this means. The rest of the family really doesn't know. So I pin on his combat action badge, and he kind of quietly tells me about what's been going on in Afghanistan. I'm like, all right, bro, here we go. You know, keep your head down. Keep your head down, keep your powder dry, change your socks, change your underwear. So we send him back to Afghanistan. February 27th, 2011. I get a phone call at 0500 from Brian. Hey, Dad, what's going on? My sergeant's an asshole. You know, I'm like, hey, bro, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. You just woke me up from REM sleep. What's up? Don't be bitching about your sergeant. Just do what you're told. Do your job. Yeah, Dad, no, I get it. Hey, Dad, I just got done reading Conversations with God. Do you wanna break that down and have a little conversation about that? And I'm like, Brian, I gotta wake up first. Really, I hadn't read it. So I had to initiate a stall so that I could at least get the Cliff Notes online, you know? It's all right. We end that phone conversation with how I ended every single conversation with him, no matter what the tone or tenor of that conversation had been. I ended with how proud I am of him and how much I love him. Later that day, I'm at a volleyball tournament, and Brian's mom, first generation immigrant from the Philippines, calls me. Wants to know why Brian's sergeant is looking for him, or for her, sorry. Why is Brian's sergeant looking for her? And she doesn't understand what she's asking. But I'm on active duty. I know what she's asking. At that moment, I still had hope. But we left the volleyball game, and we hauled ass home to a base housing where we lived. And I was in my door maybe a minute or two when there's the knock on the door for the notification team. For a little bit, I thought maybe he was missing, maybe wounded, but I knew better. They don't send notification teams out for WIA or MIA. They only send out notification teams for KIA. "11 months into a 12-month deployment. He gets taken out by a Russian recoilless rifle during an ambush. I served in the military for 35 years with no visible scars anyway. One of the greatest adventures of my life. Served with some of the finest human beings in this country. Did some really cool shit. But so did he. The military that saved me cost him everything. But he had a sense of purpose. He had a firm jaw. He had the grand adventure. He loved what he did. He died serving his country. He died a hero.
And Munko said yes because he wanted to honor his son. It's funny, Munko, when I met him, we were having a conversation about God. And I was trying to convince him that there was a God. And he was a good God. And that if you just kept watching and kept your eyes open, that you would see God. and in so many different ways. And then I started telling Uncle about when I was born and my grandmother, and when my grandmother was born on February 27th, and I was born on February 27th, and my mother went to glory on February 27th, and then my grandmother died on February 27th. I was just going, February 27th, February 27th, and then February 27th, and I was on, and Uncle was looking at me like, what? And then he took off his bracelet, and he tossed it on the table. I looked at it, and it said, Brian. Died February 27th, serving his country. And we've been friends ever since. And when you think about Kairos moments, and you think there's a reason why people come into your life, and I think it's for a moment like this. It's not accidental. It's a divine, strategically ordered. I'm happy to have you in my life. Okay. That was beautiful, thank you. Okay. All right, okay, here we go. Yeah, speaking of our next storyteller, he is from Ladera Heights. He is a screenwriter, went to Loyola Marymount. Yeah, and he is so super talented. He works for Special Needs Network. And Reva Martin, Reva Martin, who's a colleague of mine and a friend who works, also has a great show on KBLA at Drive Time. If you don't know her, you should. She's amazing, does amazing work. I just adore her. I said, I'm looking for storytellers with great stories. And she said, I know this guy. He's amazing. He's brilliant. He's funny. He's just one of my most incredible employees. And you should meet him. You should know him. I said, cool, send me his information. She said, his name is Dwayne Cox. I said, the doctor, Dwayne Cox? She said, no, Dwayne Cox the second. I said, okay, well, let me check him out. He is all that she said he is. He's a joy to have. Won't you welcome him to the stage? Dwayne Cox 2.0.
Looking out across the night, the city lives a sleepless eye.
All right. Well, from as long as I can remember, for as long as I can remember, I've viewed myself as an outsider. I think it's in part to the fact that I was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. You see, for those of you that don't know, autism is a group of developmental disabilities, not disabilities, different abilities. That can hinder social skill building and social interaction. Now, being on the spectrum, and of mixed race, is a very interesting time to be had. You see, as you can see, I am too light-skinned to be considered black, but also too dark-skinned to be considered white. It works insofar with my autism because I am considered too high-functioning to be considered autistic, but also too atypical to be considered normal. Too high to get over, too low to get under, stuck in the middle, the pain is thunder. And that's all the singing you're gonna hear. So, what does a man do when he feels that the world has been given a playbook that he just so happened to misplace? He observes. Now, This has worked until it has not. You see, from about 1st to 8th grade, I went to a Catholic school. Now, I don't want to verbally say that it's a military institution, but there is no other way to describe a place where you run around in 98-degree weather wearing matching Millswear uniforms that by the end of the day would reek of boy and girl sweat after a PE class every single Thursday. And all of that is after you've been on your knees for about an hour saying, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee," over 30 times because it's on a rosary. So this level of religious discipline, Freudian slip, it creates very buck wild individuals in the off hours. Except for my class. My class was buck wild in the on hours as well as the off. You see, we were the bane of my school's existence. So much so that we have been kicked out of not one, but 2 museums. And not just our class, we got the school banned from these 2 museums. In 2nd grade, we were banned from the Natural History Museum for laying underneath the dinosaur skeletons. Now, I looked this up. The skeletons are about $31.8 billion, and we're just laying underneath them as if it's just a bed frame. Like, they're already see-through. Why do you need to go under them? No, you think, no, we've matured. It's okay. Things have happened. It's fine. It's in the past. 6 years later, 8th grade, we get kicked out of the Museum of Tolerance for giggling during the Holocaust exhibit. And by the way, when I say we, I'm talking they. I was the one too perturbed and dying from secondhand embarrassment to be even, I am not a scene maker, okay? I'm not the special needs kid that is throwing tantrums all the time. I am low key here. I'm not causing scenes. I cannot say the same for what happened in Vegas. So as a little disclaimer, never take your 11-year-old child to Vegas. The only thing he will be able to do is the Adventure Dome at Circus. I almost said Circuit City. That's something completely different. But you see, my grandmother was, potentially still is, a chronic gambler. I'm pretty sure Kenny Rogers named the song after her. She would take me and my cousins to whatever hotel we were staying at, stick us in the room, where she would go down to the casinos, where I'm pretty sure she was on first name basis with every single concierge and dealer. But you know what? I'm 11 years old, I'm in Vegas. I've seen Vegas on TV, I'm about to live it up, Cookies, cream, I don't need a bedtime, I'm in Vegas. But 11-year-old me did need a bedtime, and I'm about to explain to you why. You see, I need my beauty sleep. And when you are in a cramped car driving all night from departing in the morning and arriving the next morning while it's still dark out, you don't get a lot of sleep. So we arrive at Caesar's Palace. Now remember the name of the hotel because it's very important. We arrive at Caesar's Palace, we go get breakfast foods inside of Caesar's Palace, which is weird to me because it's still dark out, yet we're eating breakfast. So I remember I take a drink, and then I doubled over and blacked out. I remember falling in and out of consciousness. I remember while falling in and out of consciousness, I was being carried to a room by the concierges that my grandmother knew my name. And I remember looking at my grandfather watching over me as I'm blacking in and out. And I remember the next morning reclaiming full faculty wedged in between my aunt and my uncle. I don't remember a lot of the trip in Vegas after that because my mom, within 20 seconds of hearing something was wrong, was already on the first flight to Vegas. Now, we live in LA. It's a puddle jump. And she was already there to pick me up. Little disclaimer. The drink I took was orange juice. See, as it turns out, in part because of the way my brain is wired due to the autism, I had developmental seizures that would trigger had I not gotten enough sleep. So now, do you remember when I told you to remember the name of the hotel? What exactly do you think the running joke in my family is now? Seizures Palace. So, between the autism, the seizures that may or may not have come with it, and the overall just experience with dealing with a bunch of ungodly Catholic school kids, I decided that I was just not going to interact with people for a minute. I just was going to do my own thing, play my video games, and just do the schoolwork and just be an independent person. However, when you get to high school, and you notice that people are going through mental and physical changes, including yourself, and the hormones in your body start looking at things a little bit differently and overpower your better judgment, you start striking up conversations with girls. And maybe, just maybe, you get to the point where you can ask a question such as, will you go to the prom with me? Which is exactly what I did, or tried to. It's my junior year. I want to say this is 2014. Yeah, 2014. This is my first prom. Now understand that at this point, I was getting myself ready for the night that every single Disney Channel original movie I had ever seen up till this point in my life told me one of two things will happen. This is either going to be the greatest night of your life or a tragedy that will define the rest of your life. So, there is this one girl. For the purposes of confidentiality, we will name her M. Now, M had two things going for her that made her incredibly attractive to me, more to say. M was a dancer, and I think you all know what that means. Vibrant personality, creative mind, of course. Now, the second thing was that M was a transfer student. Now, this was very enticing to me because when I came to this high school, I was the only person in said high school actually from my middle school. You see, everybody else went to the exact same middle school. So, like again, I'm an observer, the outsider, the odd man out. Now, despite being the odd man out at this high school, I developed a bit of a reputation for myself. I was our school's premier and really only spoken word lyricist. Or at least the only one I knew of, since I was the only one really getting in front of people with lyricists. Or I was the one, most getting in front of people. You see, how do I put this? I read dictionaries, so my word bank wasn't elementary. And I would string together multiple rhymes in the same line, which isn't rudimentary. But essentially, their propensity for understanding the density of my mind was often drowned out by a drum beat too loud for them to hear me fine. So as you can probably imagine, I am going to write a lyrical poem to M to ask her out to this prom. Now, I cannot remember what the poem was, so I'm not going to tell you. But I can remember that two other girls in my class, we will call them C and J, got wind of this plan and decided to help me out. This is when I learned that the only thing better than a wingman is a wing woman. You see, we had this very intricate plan. At 12:40, we would synchronize watches that we did not have. At 12:45, while I would be setting up audio equipment in the front of the class, a very important thing, this is a digital production class, that's an important detail, is that I would set up audio equipment in front of the class, and C would ask M, what are you doing for prom? You know, to kind of ease in the conversation, set the mood a little bit. So, if hopefully the answer was, I'm not doing anything for prom, I would then say the lyric, and then Jay, my other partner, would hand M a drawn picture, a hand-drawn picture of the word prom. Plan is flawless. 12:40, synchronized watch. Setting up equipment. Just doing nothing. So C asks M, I'm just curious, what are you going to be doing for prom? M looks at her very nonchalantly and goes, yeah, I got a dance recital that night. Correct. So, I get a look from Jay that basically is like, stand down. But I knew what inside my heart was telling me. Abort the mission, abandon all hope, run, Forrest, run, flag on the play. So, I decide, now I could have just, made a clean exit, if that makes any sense. If there wasn't that one person, because there's always that one person, who said, Dwayne, what are you doing up there? And I was like, I'm setting up the audio equipment for the teacher, who obviously is going to show us some digital production movies. What were you doing sitting down there? So, put that down. I walked back to my seats, completely deflated, having both dodged a bullet and been shot through the heart. If it makes you feel any better, I went to prom with a lovely girl, the old friend from middle school. Yes, one of the Catholic school girls. They were fine as individuals. So, why do I tell you this? To let you know that there is power in being the observer, in being the outside, the man looking in. Looking at the picture outside of the frame, so to speak. It doesn't matter whether you're out of your element dealing with a bunch of rambunctious school children. Doesn't matter whether you're a little bit out of your mind, literally having a lightning storm going on inside your brain in Vegas. Or it doesn't matter whether you're just straight up out of luck when you're asking a crush of yours to prom. There's power in being the person who looks before they leap. Thank you.
2.0. That was amazing. All right, all right. I love it, I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna hate for this evening to be over. We just got a couple more, y'all. Hang in there. Let me hear a little improvisation from my man right here. Okay, check him out. Lawrence. Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you so much. He is amazing. I hope that every sweet spot has you. All right. Well, next to the stage is going to be my girl. She's got a lot to talk about. She grew up, we like to say, almost in Beverly Hills. She's going to tell you all about it. Welcome to the stage, my girl, Kathy. That's right. Uh-oh, I think this woman likes money. What you think? Come on, girl.
How about this? Give me your shoulder. They coming off. All right. That was for you, Stephanie. Woo. Come on down. This is what 70 happens at 70.
This is 70. This is what 70 looks like, y'all.
Thank you, Angelique. Well, good evening. You know, I already planned what I was going to say, and then you get up here and your heart's beating fast. I know I have a habit of going like talk speed, so I'm going to take a deep breath. And now I'm going to ask everybody, because all of us were kids, what did you dream about when you were a child? Amen. Somebody else? You are. That's beautiful. Amen. Amen. Who said teacher? Hey, Pastor, you are. Yes. So. A veterinarian? Okay. Amen. All right.
A director.
Movie. Amen. So we all had dreams, didn't we? But life has its way sometimes, doesn't it? Amen. So I grew up in Beverly Hills, almost. And how did that happen? A little black girl. So I'm going to share with you that my parents shopped at Bullock's Wilshire, Bullock's Westwood, Saks Fifth Avenue. That's where you got your underwear from, Tiffany. and eye magnets. It doesn't even exist anymore. But those are the stores that I had been exposed to from a little girl. I didn't know anything about wearing anything less. And in that, I began to develop a taste for the finer things in life. My mother and father, my father, first I'm going to talk about him. He came to California with my mother to teach school, but in the late 1940s, there were no black teachers. So he did the next best thing. Him and my mom found jobs up in Beverly Hills, working in some of the finest restaurants. To celebrate my mother's the second black waitress at Lori's Prime Rib when you had to be lighter than a paper bag. And my father worked for the McHenry family, and he also worked for the Max Factor family, and for Lowe's, the theater family, because we used to always get free tickets to go to the theater when I was a kid, so I never forgot that. But he would come home in those years, and that was like in the 60s, early 60s, he would come home with $200 to $300 and some change, and he had a high boy. He used to put his change over on the high boy. Of course, that change was mine, because I was daddy's little girl, so I was stacking, just stealing from my daddy. And so I think my mother was my informant, but but in that, I was taking the change and putting it in my drawer and saving it. And so my father approached me one day and he said, Kathy, he said, are you stealing from me? And I said, no, Daddy, I wouldn't do that. And he said, something like, let's look in your drawer. Because, you know, you're not smart enough when you're like 8, 7 years old to stash it somewhere where they can't find it. So I opened my drawer and before that I was apologizing to him. And that was the beginning of, I knew I could manipulate my daddy, and I was his favorite. And that spoke volumes, because I got away with so much stuff that I should have been whipped for. So my life looked perfect. I had an older brother, and we lived and went to the finest places. And my parents were married 21 years. And in that marriage, there was chaos. My mother was controlling and possessive, and my father was a kind person and didn't like to argue and fight. So after 21 years, there was a divorce. The two people that I loved so much and looked up to. And it was like War of the Roses in the house. at 1301 Corson. And I mean, they were fighting. But once my father was out the house, all things began to change. My mother got a little boyfriend, a little old pervert. And so one day I woke up and he was in the bed with me. I'll never forget, he said, I'm gonna turn you like red, white, and blue, like a spinning top. But I had a little thug in me and a little fight in me. And I wanna back up because I missed this. When I went to modeling school and I went to charm school and I had etiquette. So this is a little girl that like knew how to defend herself. Ran to the hall phone. Remember back then you had phones in your bedroom. I went to the hallway, called my mother at Bank of America, and I said, Mom, Fred just tried to touch me and was in my bed. And she told me that she didn't believe me. And in other words, that was her man, and that was the end of that. Betrayal set in. Anger set in. And I began to hang out and rebel. One of my girlfriends called me one evening. My mother worked in the evening too, and said, let's go skating. I said, hey. So West Side Girl said, jumped in the car, low riders. I think it was a 1960 Impala. And here we go, bumping down the street all the way to Compton. I had no fear. We had fun. We skated. Shortly after that, we went to the donut shop on Rosecrans. Everybody's hanging out. I wore micro minis there, but I always wore a girdle because I didn't want my booty hanging out. And I was bent over in the car talking like this. And all of a sudden, another car came by and just swooped me in the car because I weighed probably less than 100 pounds. My life forever changed at that moment. I was raped and kept for 7 days, over and over. I was burnt and with cigarette butts. And I remember saying, where are those people that love me? Again, betrayal had set in and anger. For 7 days, a lady came in like a guardian angel and told those boys to let me go and take me back where they found me. But she gave me a dime. And I took that dime. When they dropped me off from Rosecrans, they had me blindfolded. And I removed my blindfold and I saw a little phone booth. It was a dime back then. And so we're in the 60s. And I called my girlfriend's mom, or well, really, it's my girlfriend, but her mom answered the phone. And I told her where I was at. And they came and got me. They cleaned me up. And she loved on me. Mind you, my girlfriend, Karen, is chubby. And so she used to call me Pogo Stick. And she was thick. She had the breasts, you know, the hips. And I didn't have none of that. I was straight up and down. And so Miss Burks cleaned me up and, you know, talked about what my mother needs to do. And she took me home. And we were still living in 1301 Curzon. And she walks through the kitchen door, back porch, and she sees my mother standing there. And I walk past my mother into my bedroom with shame and anger. But I stand in the hallway to hear, and Miss Burks tells my mother that she needs to call the police. She also tells my mother I need to go to the hospital. My mother's response was, now she's in her early 40s, says, well, she shouldn't have had her little fast out there. That's what she deserves. That was another thing. And so it was all over that Kathy Fultz, my name was Catherine Gail Fultz, turned out to be this little fast girl. No one knew. No one stopped to ask me what was going on. Well, my life had changed drastically then. And I decided to ask my brother's girlfriend, can I come live with her and her sister? And they were call girls, prostitutes. I wanted to go live with them. There's going to be rules, but I wanted to go live with them. I knew I was going to have to babysit. I knew I was going to have to stay in school at Fairfax. I knew I was going to do the right thing. So they said I had to work a job, so I found a job at WLCAC ShopRite Market on the corner of Washington and Rimpau. So every morning I got up and I caught the bus to Fairfax, caught the bus back, and worked. And I was like, this is not adding up. I got a boyfriend giving me fake jewelry. This is not, I'm broke. I'm used to having money. And I just said, I was disturbed, and I would see them come home with $200 or $300, and only like an hour or 2 hours they'd be gone from the house. I said, this is not working for me. I need to talk to them. So I'm a kid. But they listened and they said, well, your brother will find out. I said, I'm not going to tell. You don't tell. I'm not used to this kind of life. Being broke, that is. My love of money. So I turned around, and after I talked to them, they finally gave in because I wore them out. And they said, we'll give you one client. His name was Fritz. He was a shoe cobbler in Hollywood for the movie stars. Kind of glamorous, an old wrinkled up white man. I was really so glad that he was old. And so they fixed me up. Of course, I didn't have the breast for the negligee, so they had to take it in and take in some other stuff and put some makeup on me and make me look proper for him. And he's a $50 trick. But I had learned marketing because my dad was always, he was in the business and he put in bids. I said, well, I'm 16, I'm a minor, they're old. I'm going to ask them for $50 more. That's how my head thought. And so I said, Fritz, I would like, when he came in the room, I was nervous. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, but I wasn't too nervous to ask for money. I think, and I said, I'm a minor, you know. Can you give me $50 more, $100? He said, sure, no problem. He did his business, and that I held on to that. I never put that money down. He walked out the door. I said, oh, God, this is it. I got to do this more. If I did this 5 times a week, one time, that's $500. And so that's, you know, when you're immature, you're not thinking everything out. And so, but the love of money, here we go again. And so as time moved on, I ended up having my dream daughter, and that was everything to live for, because I don't know if I really wanted to live, because I was so angry. But when I had her, it was something that motivated me even more, and to even protect myself. So I started working for massage parlors, for madams, and just all getting in all the industry, period, and find out which one works for me, which one allowed me to spend more time with my daughter. Then I got an offer to go to Hawaii. I was like, oh, to work for, you know, the crime, what do you call it, the crime boss, what do you call it, mafia over there. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. You know, Jan, this madam who asked me. And so I would say, well, you got to pass. You can't act like you're a black girl. You got to be Puerto Rican, because she always told me I was Puerto Rican. You can be Portuguese. She named all these things. I said, I'll do it, because the money sound good. And I went over there, got an apartment for my daughter and I, got me a little convertible Carmen Ghia, got me a boyfriend. I was living it up. But I knew I had to come back to the main island to see my daughter and get her. I had set up everything for her and me. When I came back, my mother was divorcing Fred, the dirty old man. So I said, Mom, I'm taking Tiffany, and we're going to go live in Hawaii. And she just, it broke her heart, because her and Tiffany had bonded and had a close relationship. So after time, my mother was buying a triplex on Dunsmuir, where she lives now, her 3 units. I've always been very proud of that woman, but anyway, I stayed home, got me a sugar daddy that had a Maserati, made sure that I had the dope hang up. I was selling dope, and then found some of my old tricks and stuff so I can keep it live. And so one night I'm driving the Maserati, stop at a gas station, and my friend knew these 3 guys. I only knew one. And they were all in the car, their tongues hanging out. And so I said, I don't want to be bothered. But I did give one my number, and then he began to pursue me. And I stayed with him 8 years. His name was Doobie. We had a beautiful relationship at the beginning, and he told me he wanted to be a pimp. I want to tell you how crazy I was out of my damn mind. I said, well, I don't want to I don't want to pay you, you know what I'm saying, so we don't need to be together. I said, but I'll give you the game, and I'll hook you up with a pimp friend, and put the sack in your hand, and we can roll like Thomasina and who? Thomasina and who? Bushrod. Bonnie and Clyde. He was a thug and a squabbler. He used to always carry his gun with him, so I was attracted to that, too. He wore a vest, gun vest, so I liked that, too. And I stayed 8 years, and all the 8 years weren't bad. But you don't stay too long when it becomes abusive, mentally and emotionally and physically. It was time to go. But I wasn't through with crime yet. And so I leave him, and in the midst of leaving him, I'm still committing crime. But my grandmother, I done mentioned Willa Mae Howe, had put the word of God in me, and I didn't really even know when that seed gets planted. I had a desire to go to church. So I used to go to Crenshaw Christian Center. Every Sunday, give Crenshaw Christian Center $100. But this particular Sunday, I drove all the way from the valley. I sobered myself up, got all shiny. And they allowed me in. I had my mink coat on, and I walked across the lot. You don't have to walk forever past Mercedes, Rolls Royce. You have to be broke. You can be a Christian, you have to be broke, because I looked at my grandmother. I didn't want to be like her. So I was like, walked through the parking lot in these stilettos, got to the doors were closed. It was about 8:15, 8:30. I pulled the door, and the usher, I guess he pulls it back, and I pull the door again, and he pulls it back. Then I kick the door, and I pull the door, and he slides out. And he says, if you're not here by 8 o'clock, you can't get in. So, of course, I cussed him out. I left crying because I was mad, because all I wanted to do was know God. That's all I wanted, and I told him that. So I got in the car, and I got on the 10 freeway to the Harbor Freeway to the Hollywood Freeway, and I usually take the Ventura to get home on Victory. I lived off of Victory, but I took the Hollywood Freeway and got off on Sherman Way. When Angelique talked about purpose and plan, even though I was crying and I was hurt and I was angry, I see this man in the street directing people. And I said, let me pull up. Those look like church people. They were in Sears and Roebucks and J.C. Penney's. I said, but maybe I can go in here and get some help. And so I pull up to him and I said, is this a church? He says, yeah. I said, well, where do I park at? He said, AGF. It was huge, the church. So I walked in my stilettos all back to the church. And when I got to the door, they hugged me. They received me and asked me, had I been here before? And asked me my name. And when I told her that, I never felt so much love. And God always does stuff. He orders your steps. When I got in, before I got into the door, she tapped me on my back. She said, can I seat you with somebody? This little tiny cute white lady. And I said, yeah. So she put me next to a couple, but the husband came and decided to sandwich me in. Then they said they're going to get me a real Bible, because I didn't have no Bible with me. And I sat in between them. I had felt so much love, and I gave them my number, and they would make sure I'd come in there on the Bible studies. And I was really going in between getting high and still selling my body and selling drugs. But I was definitely in church on Sundays. That's crazy, and I used to put my money and ask God to help me make money. So all those years, 21 years in the world, 1989, I get busted with 6 keys of cocaine and $79,000. But that was the best thing that ever happened. When the officers, the FBI, busted me in my head and started interrogating me, I was grateful. And in that, my life changed. I made the right choice. Ran into a friend that I used to sell drugs with. She said, I want you to go to my church. I said, girl, I want you to go to my dead church. But I didn't say it like that because it was dead. And she said, no, come to my church first. I said, no, I want you to come to your church first. But anyway, her name's Renee. And I said, okay, I'll go to your church. And when I walked in, I didn't know it was a woman pastor. I didn't know anything about all the politics in church. It's so crazy. She had a guest speaker. It was an anniversary. Her name is Dr. Beverly Bam Crawford. I had a case that I was fighting. My kids were tired of me because I had index cards, which real ghetto, scriptures all through the house. Index cards. Oh, I was really lost there. And so, where am I at? So, when I went to church, I was equipped because I knew I was going to prison. I was looking at 20 years. And my case was an informant case. But God turned that around. They gave me 5 years. The judge didn't even recognize me. I came in one day, I have to tell this. I came into the courtroom, and his name was Ronald Huntman. And even the DEA used to come talk to me. Not the DEA, what do you call it? The prosecutor. You'd say, where's your attorney? And I said, I don't know. Tiffany knows this used to happen. And so she said, well, call him. And I gave, here's his number, you call him. And that's how a person became. But I came into the court, and he said, where's Miss Fultz? Where's Miss Fultz? And I said, right here. I had changed, Dr. Crawford. He didn't even recognize me. That darkness, slipping into darkness, had went away. And I was equipped, so when I went to prison, I told Dr. Crawford I'd be back. I just became a grandmother and a great aunt. And that was my world. So for those, I had 5 years. I did 1 year and a few months. And then with parole, I did 1 year because the parole officer was tired of me preaching Jesus to his... I was preaching Jesus to him. He was tired of me. He said, get rid of Miss Fultz. And I even went to a supervisor on him because he was making me mad. And God did a breaking in me. To say all that, when I came home, I went to school, became a human services class, graduated, went to the LA Mission, did my internship. For the first 18 months, maybe not 18 months, but almost 2 years it seems like, I was a gopher. And I didn't mind. I just wanted to serve God. The lady, the director, came to me and said, Kathy, I want you to be a counselor. I said, oh, hell no, not to all these women. They tore up and broke down. And then the voice inside of me said, they're all you. So I was there at the LA Mission for 11 years. And today, I'm an advocate. So I just want to know, what did you dream about when you were young, when you were a kid? Because I never dreamed about being a hoe or a dope dealer.
Praying for me, though my eyes were open, still I could not see all that I needed. I would find on my knees. Somebody somewhere was praying for me.
Woo! All right. We got one more. So hang in there, one more. You don't want to miss this one. One more. I know it's late. This is Sunday night. This is our first one. We're working out the kinks, but we're a little long-winded tonight. They were a little excited. They got a little long. The stories got a little long tonight, but it's all good. Give them grace. Nobody here is an actor. We're going to bring you the only two actors in this entire show about to come up to the stage. You guys, they have never done this before. They have never brought you their stories before. They came, they brought their stories. We've worked for the last 2 weeks only, where they brought their stories. We cultivated their stories. We edited them. They rehearsed on Zoom, okay? They have never done this before. They are not actors. These are people just like you, just wanting to tell you about what they've learned in their journeys. So give them one more round of applause, because this has been amazing. I have been so honored to work with each and every one of them. So without further ado, I could not be more excited about these two. They're going to tell you about their journey. I need one more chair up here and one more mic. Who's supposed to be helping me? Okay, one more chair, one more mic. We're going to bring to the stage a wonderful couple. They're going to tell you a little bit of who they are. Alex is a wonderful producer and actor, and Vanessa is also a producer and actor. They have a lot more to tell you. You have to, before you leave here, make sure that you scan the app so you can find out who all these people are, some of their programs that they've started, but also their bios, their resumes, okay? We're running out of time, but I want to bring the other chair up. Okay, here we go. All right, Alex and Vanessa, welcome.
Someone who turns your heart around, and next thing you know, you're closing down the town.
Here we go. Well, we still have a crowd here. Let's go.
Woo!
Woo!
Hi there. Is my mic on?
Yes.
All right. I don't have a lot to say, but he does all the talking.
Well, our love story started back in the late fall of 1996 in Houston, Texas.
Well, I gotta say, we've been married 27
It's not on.
Turn your mic on.
Mic on?
Mine is
I
on.
can take his. Thank you guys for
This is
hanging out.
like, thank you for staying with us. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, here
Do
we
I
go.
need to get closer?
Are you on, honey?
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, I'm on.
Shall we start again?
Yes. Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard us, but we've been married 27 years.
And our love story
Wait.
started in late fall of 1996.
The person who never wanted to be married in life, me, never wanted to be married.
It started in 1996 in Houston, Texas. Vanessa and I were both actors, and we were doing a short film for a production company in Houston, Texas.
Yeah, we were cast in the show, and we were filming in, like he said, Houston, Texas.
So there were 4 or 5 other actors that were part of the shoot. They were sitting around a table, and unfortunately or fortunately, Vanessa and I happened to sit across from each other.
We had never seen each other ever in life.
I had heard about
First
it, but I had never seen her before. So I sat across from her, and I thought she was cute, you know. And I thought she looked nice. She's a nice-looking woman. And I know she thought of me.
He was okay. He was okay. He was okay. Well, I didn't go to work to be attracted to anybody. I didn't think I was going to meet anybody on this film set, you know.
But, you know, it went okay. The film shoot went fine. The film shoot went fine. We had lunch together. We, you know, chit-chatted throughout the day. And
Yeah,
things
in
went
between
good.
takes, we kind of chatted.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we were wrapping up and preparing to go our separate ways. And
Well,
she had told
first things first. Okay, so, yeah, we did talk, and I told him that I was new in town, that I had moved from LA as an actor to Houston because my mom got sick with cancer, and I wanted to go take care of my mom. I'm from Texas. So I was new in town, and I didn't really know anybody, and he was kind of like the first black person I'd ever seen in Houston on the set.
So, that said, I told her that I had a big New Year's Eve party every year.
Yes.
And that if she wanted to meet any of the black actors that worked in Houston to come to my party, this would be an excellent time for her to meet the so-called black acting
The African
community.
American acting community, because I thought, Houston has an acting community?
So she told me
They
that
do.
her and her daughter were going away on a trip to the Grand Canyon. And, you know, she wasn't sure whether she was going to make the party or not.
Yes.
So we exchanged numbers, said goodbye. Like I said, I thought she was cute. She was, you know, it was all good.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 weeks went by, and the New Year's
I never
Eve
thought
party
about him
came.
again.
Man, the party was jumping. We were all having fun, doing our thing.
We're at the New Year's Eve party.
I get a knock on my door, and I open the door, and it's this one had come to the New Year's Eve party. But now she had
I told him
bought
I was going to try to come.
She had bought somebody with her, a big bear of a brother that I took to be her boyfriend. She told me later it wasn't her
I
boyfriend.
kept telling him it's not my boyfriend.
But
It was just a
this-
guy. It was New Year's Eve. I did not want to be on the road by myself at night. New Year's Eve, right?
Well, this brother looked like her bodyguard. I mean, he was a big bear of a brother, and all he did was just stand there. He looked like a damn CIA agent, complete with sunglasses.
Oh, God.
He didn't talk to nobody. We offered him a drink. He didn't drink.
He was a
tried to
man of
talk,
few
He didn't
words.
do that. All he did was observe. That's all he did. That's all he did. And all through the night, I kept looking at this dude thinking, man, what the hell is he doing? And he just, you know,
Was he
just
jealous?
watching. But jealous. So she went on.
Anyway, I was circulating around the party. I wanted to remember the African American acting community. And I met a lot of people. It was really interesting. I met a lot of industry people. Small world, actually. Always a small world, right? At the party, I actually see one of my good friends from my high school drama class. He was there, Byron. And Byron and Alex were actually good friends.
Right. We had actually toured together in an old Chitlin Circuit play called The Diary of Black Men. How
Y'all remember
do you
that?
love a black woman? So
Anyway.
we had been touring for years, and coincidence, Byron and Vanessa saw
We were
each
good
other.
friends. It was nice to have somebody familiar, especially in this group of new people I'm meeting.
Exactly.
So
the
I
party
enjoyed
went
it.
on. It came to an end, and it didn't
Well,
come
actually,
to
I
an end.
hadn't even talked to him that much.
No,
actually,
you really
you
didn't.
and I didn't really do that much talking.
But the guys at the party were still talking to her. She had on this nice little tight dress. She was looking good. Nobody really talked to me. She didn't at least talk to me.
He was actually very gregarious and very nice, and he's actually a very popular person. I found out he's like the big fish in Houston, Texas, in the
the
acting
little pond,
community.
yes. So she was leaving, her and her bodyguard, as he
Yeah,
was
yeah,
ushering
yeah.
her out to the car,
So-
standing there like he was watching over her, like she was the president or something.
God. Anyway, I'm tired. I'm ready to go. I've seen everything I wanted to see. I mean, I checked out the scene. It was really nice. So I'm tired. I want to go home. And so I'm walking my way to the door. And then I wave to Alex. I say, okay, thank you so much for inviting me, but I got to get home. And what did you say?
You say, I'll see you later. She
I'll
said,
see you later.
I said, no,
That's
no,
right.
no,
I
no.
said, I said, I'll see you around
And I
at the
said,
auditions.
nope, you won't see me around because I'm headed off to New York City to work at the Joe Papp Public Theater to do Antony and Cleopatra with the Oscar winner Vanessa Redgrave. I said this with my chest poked out, right? You know, thinking
Yes,
that I was going to impress her.
but something that's key here. I was not paying any attention. I was tired and sleepy, and all I heard was, you remember, like on Charlie Brown, wah, 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 wah. And he's talking about, oh, I'm going to be in New York. I really, literally didn't hear any of that. I'm just going, yeah, okay, I'll see you around. Yeah. I was trying to be nice, but I was heading out there. So that's a very important point. I don't remember that.
2.5 months passed. I did not see or talk to Vanessa
We
anymore.
didn't talk or anything.
The play had opened. It opened to great reviews.
He's in New York City.
And I'm in New York City all by myself. In those days, I was
Footloose
thin in the
and fancy
waist.
free.
I was thin in the waist, pretty in the face, had long curly hair all over the place. So I mean, New
was
York,
like
baby, was
any.
my playground. I mean, I was ready to go. Little did I know that this one.
Well, what happened? Out of nowhere, my agent called me. I mean, seriously, out of nowhere, and said, "Hey, you have an audition for a soap opera in New York City." I completely forgot all about this guy. I didn't think about him at all. I'm in New York City, and I had my auditions, and now I've got a couple days free in New York City to kind of see the sights and eat and hang out and all that. So I was just looking to have fun in New York City.
So she began to see all around New York the
Oh,
posters.
yes. So as I'm walking around, okay, I'm going to say this. Okay, so as I'm walking around New York City, right, I keep seeing this poster. I keep seeing them everywhere. It says Antony and Cleopatra, Vanessa Redgrave, and everywhere I went, I kept seeing this. And I'm like, why is this looking so and sounding so familiar to me? And I just kept, I'm like thinking, and I thought, is that the guy that I met in Houston? Is this the play he was talking about? Can't be. This guy's not in this play in Vanessa Redgrave. But it was coming back to me. I'm thinking, this is what this guy was saying. So, of course, I'm interested because now I'm in New York City. I'm a struggling actress. And what do I want to see, ladies? A free show in New York City. So, of course, I see the name of the theater, and I call the theater, and I get backstage phone, and I said, is there a guy named Alex Morris in this show? And the guy immediately says, yes. So that was too easy. So I said, wait, but is this Alex Morris from Houston, Texas? He goes, yeah, I think Alex is from Houston, Texas. And I'm like, can you give him my number and tell him to call me, please? And
So
Alex actually called me back.
when I got to the theater that night, the house manager gave me the number and told me that somebody named Vanessa had called and was trying to get in touch with me. Now, of course,
I
I
want free
began to
tickets.
think, is this the same girl that I met at the party and that I had worked with? Shoot, if she was, all right. I knew it wasn't going to take long for her to come back to me, baby. I knew she wanted to get back to me. And boy, my ego was all over the place. So I quickly called her up, right?
He didn't know I just wanted free tickets to a New York City show. Sorry.
So I called her up, and we made a date to meet each other the next day for the matinee performance.
Oh, yeah, he invited me to the show the next day.
Right.
It was going to be Saturday matinee show.
Exactly. So
Right.
we agreed to meet the next day. Now, as you can see by looking at me now, I obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but one of the things I can do very well is cook.
He
So,
likes to, yeah.
The
Best cook in the world.
That's my baby, yeah. So I had prepared, in the meantime, I'd gotten a call from the theater saying Vanessa had gotten laryngitis and that she wasn't going to perform the afternoon matinee.
They canceled the show.
Well, I was devastated.
My free show.
So I called Vanessa and told her that the show was canceled. And she was like, oh, God.
I was very disappointed, of course, but I was looking forward to, like I said, my last couple of days in New York City, so I had a big day ahead of me without seeing the show. So now I'm looking forward to being out on the town.
So I convinced her to let us just hang out together. Let's just meet up and come and hang out. We can have dinner and, you know.
The last thing I wanted to do was hang out with this dude. I just wanted to see the show.
Well, I convinced her to come and hang out with me. So we agreed to come to the airport. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, and I couldn't say I was busy, right? Because what? I'm supposed to be at the show with him, but I really wanted to say I can't, I don't have time.
And she wanted the free tickets.
Yeah,
so
I
she
did.
say. I always believe it.
Anyway, we agreed to meet up and hang out.
So she agreed to meet up, and so I spent all that day, man, cleaning up my apartment, getting things ready. I had prepared an excellent chicken and vegetable and potato casserole that I had put in aluminum foil and popped in the oven over low temperature, had it all set up. In the meantime, I had gone down into the basement where the laundry room, thank you, baby, and where the laundry room was to get my clothes out of the dryer. There's two things that's important here. One is Shakespeare wrote, "Beware the Ides of March."
I went to meet him at his apartment. I'm knocking on the door. Dude's not even home. He's not even answering the door. And I'm just knocking. I started to turn around and go back.
So the second point is the Bible says, and you know this, Pastor, the Bible says, I stand at the door and knock. Well, I come off the elevator with my basket of laundry, and there standing at my door knocking is this beautiful creature. And I'm telling you, brothers, oh my God. When I walked off the elevator, I saw her standing there, and she had the ass of God.
Oh, God. It's gone now.
And I'm like, oh my God. And when I picked my jaw and my laundry up off the floor, I went past her to invite her into the apartment. And she had on this perfume. To this day, 27 years later, I still remember the fragrance in my nose. It was a perfume called Wrappings.
Wrappings. You guys
They don't
remember
make it no more,
Wrappings?
but man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I walked past her, and we agreed then to go out and look for CDs.
We were just gonna go hang out in New York City. We were just gonna go hang out, kick around. He likes old records and things, so we were gonna go to some record shops, have some ice cream, just do stuff. So this is the guy I didn't want to hang out with, right? Well, we get out there and we start just hanging out. We're going to all these different places, just walking around New York City, and
it was
like I had known this man forever.
Yes, sir.
It is like I'd known him all my life. We just connected.
And I was doing everything I could to just keep close to her. I would trip over and do stuff like that just to get close to her.
Yeah,
when we would get to a curb where we had to cross the street, I would, intentionally, very chivalrously grab her hand so we could walk together across the street. We
just had such a good time. And it was like, I know this sounds cliche, but it was like our souls connected. I mean, this is the second time I've seen this guy in my life. And it's like you can't help it. I mean, you can't help who you meet.
She couldn't resist that. I'm telling you,
that was back in the day.
Definitely back in the day. So we spent the day together. It was a wonderful day.
It was just like our spirits connected, right?
We got back to the apartment, and as we were coming off the elevator, that chicken and vegetable.
Oh, yeah, wait. We had spent all day in New York City, right? And I love to eat. I love good food. And I'm thinking we're going to go stop at some nice restaurant and eat. And he keeps talking about this food that he has cooking at home. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to eat. Let's just eat out here. We're having a good time.
No.
So he's insisting on going back to his apartment to eat. Okay, so
can I tell it now?
Go ahead, baby.
So we get off the elevator, and as we're getting off the elevator, the aroma of that chicken and
my God,
dish started wafting down the hall.
That food was smelling so good. I'm like, what in the world is this man cooking?
Let me tell you something, brothers.
He's good.
The way to a woman's heart is, say it again, a way to a woman's heart is into her stomach. I'm telling you.
ate and laughed and had fun all night. And we did this for the next several nights, and we would spend all day together in New York City, and at the end of the night, at the end of the evening, I would have to go back to my hotel room, and we just hated that I had to go back to my hotel room. So we ended up, remember, he's staying at Vanessa Redgrave's apartment that she provided her own place for him to stay in, so it was fabulous.
I think one of the things that was really wonderful is that as we got to know each other, Vanessa began to tell me about her family, about living in Port Arthur, her daughter, and she also told
Port
me
Arthur,
about
Texas.
her mother, who had lost her battle to cancer. And the more she talked, the more endearing she became to me. The more she became even more luminous. She was, to me, more brighter than the snow that had fallen on the
We
ground.
were falling in love in New York City.
So I invited her to just come in and instead of
He
going
said,
back
get
home-
out of that old hotel room and just come to stay in here in this place. We're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I'm paying for a hotel, and I'm like, I don't want to pay for a hotel. Remember, the reason I feel really comfortable with this, because this is not me. I'm so different from what I'm usually doing with when I meet a guy, but I knew his best friend, who was also my good friend, so I felt a little comfortable with him. And just getting to know him, you know a person, you really know when you connect with someone, right?
Absolutely.
So,
And so she-
I stayed with him. I moved out of the hotel,
and
and
stayed with
went with him. He had 21 more days left before his show closed on, it wasn't Broadway, it was like off Broadway. I stayed. Instead of me going back home in 2 to 3 days, I ended up staying 21 more days with him. And we just stayed in New York City and just fell in love.
And we have to make this clear. She made it very clear that when she came to stay with me,
Yes.
there would be no hanky-panky. There was
Yep.
hanky, but no panky.
No panky. I said no. He had 2 bedrooms. I had one, he had one, and I said, nope, this is the way it is.
And at this point, I didn't care. I just wanted to do anything I could
Yes.
just to be in the presence of this
Ladies, one thing I tell everyone, take time to get to know each other. We spent 21 days just courting, like the old-fashioned courting. What could be old-fashioned, though? We're staying in the same place, right? But there was nothing going on. We were just getting to know each other and loving each other, and spent 21 days. We just didn't want to be apart from each other. Day one we saw each other. We've been together since then for 27 years. And know the song.
My best friend used to say, my best friend used to say that he's been married to his wife now for over 30 years, and he says that once you get struck by the lightning bolt, your life will change. And I used to laugh and dog him out. I told him there's no such thing as a damn lightning bolt changing your life. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. The lightning bolt is real. And once it hits you, it doesn't change you.
You don't know when.
You know, there is a song, I think it's sung by Christopher Cross.
Christopher Cross.
Yeah, and it says...
Who knows it?
When you get caught
Between the moon and New York City.
It's crazy.
But it's true.
When
you get caught between the we're not singers. New York City. The best that you can do. The best that you can do is fall in love.
Once in your life, you find her. Someone who turns your heart around, and next thing you know, you're cruising down the town. Wake up and it's
Oh, that was amazing. Everybody, thank you so much. Let's give everybody one more hand. Everybody, let's say one more time. Thank you so much for coming to Living in the Sweet Spot. One more time for every single storyteller up here. Every single one. Let's one more time. We got Ivy. We got, oh my God, I gotta go through everybody's like Kathy. We got Monko. We got Dwayne. We've got Monique. We've got Michael J. We got Jackie. We got Vanessa. We got Alex. We got Trey. Everybody say thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, Go ahead and check out, what's it called? Sweet Spot, Living in the Sweet Spot t-shirt. Please look out for what's coming next. We're going to keep doing these. Thank you so much for Community Build for being one of our sponsors. Thank you for Areva Martin for being a sponsor. Just thank you for everyone who came out. I appreciate you. I could not have done it without this community. If you like it, you guys liked it, you had a good time, you're going to come back if we do them on a regular basis. I think that's a yes, right? What? Monthly, we'll try it every other month, and then we'll try to do it monthly, okay? All right, thank you so much. Get home safely. Go buy some t-shirts, and I want to talk to you. Thank you so much. Everybody get home safely. You guys were amazing. Oh my gosh. You guys were amazing. Lawrence, thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Cullen. Make sure you can buy books. Jackie Goucher's books are out there. Lawrence, you were amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you. Goucher's books are out there, Jackie Goucher. Anything else? Make sure you scan the code so that you